This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all of you from wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to And Beyond Ngala this afternoon. And what we have here is a small herd of elephants. And they've kind of just moved from the long grass right into the road. Cause a typical African traffic jam at the moment. You can see the big female in the front. There's actually a few more that are coming through on the left. But yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to spend a little bit more time with these elephants for now, but a very warm welcome to all of you from wherever you may be to your very own live safari from the African bush. Welcome back, everybody. So I've just moved a little bit forward. I'm actually going to stop right here. There are a few more elephants that are coming on the left, and you kind of lose sight of them. I mean, it's weird to think that you can even lose sight of such a big animal in the long grass, but particularly these smaller ones. I mean, the big female who's now on the road, you won't lose in the long grass, but her younger ones that are kind of meeting up and they're going to come and join her shortly, you can even lose sight of them. You sometimes just see the grass moving down as they walk. There's another one that's coming through to join on the left-hand side here. But good afternoon, everybody. I'm Daniel Fisher, and on camera this afternoon we've got Odie. It's been a while that Ngala's been out, but it's good to be back. Nice and hot today. Good early start as well. Here comes an elephant that's just kind of strolling through, kind of joining up. It's like a younger bull that might be on the peripheries of the herd. Interesting. I mean, it's a super hot day today. There is lots of water around as well. It looks like that big female up ahead. When she came past us, I did have a good look at her, and she looked like she had spent some time at a small little mud wallow, cooling down. We haven't actually had incredible heat recently. I'm just going to move a little bit forward here. And on hot days like this, particularly when there is lots of water, you'll see these elephants looking for these small little mud wallows in between the grass here and in between the roads. They don't have to necessarily go to a great big watering hole either, simply for the reason that there is so much water around. Even in the roads, there's quite a lot of mud wallows and mud patches. And, I mean, let's see if we can have a good look at that female that's up ahead. She's very clearly the leader. You can see just from her behavior. Everybody is kind of following her. Now she's stopped to feed. You see the smaller ones is doing exactly the same, and everyone will kind of follow her lead. If you have a closer look, I don't know how clear it is to see. You can even this one that's kind of just come into our shot. Can you see the darker grey areas on the animals? And that is exactly what I was talking about, the water that they would have gone to. And they would have thrown water on themselves, particularly behind their ears, on their backs, underneath themselves, to try and cool themselves down. And I mean, it is super, super hot at this time of the day, and I mean, you can see them all feeding. They don't really have the luxury of a lot of the other animals of being able to spend this time kind of resting in the shade. There will be times when they do, but being such a big herbivore, they need to spend a huge portion of their time moving around and feeding. They don't have the luxury of being able to rest and snooze in the heat of the day. So going to a watering hole and wetting themselves and cooling themselves down is a really good way to ensure that they don't overheat and allows them to feed for a lot longer. I mean, being such a big animal, it takes a long time for them to heat up. It also takes a long time for them to cool down. So you see those ears kind of flapping over there. Keegan, what size is the typical elephant herd? And it'll vary from region to region. I would probably say around Ngala, we would probably have an average herd size of 10, 15, even about 20. But then at some points you can have larger herds, even up to about 50 that come through our property. This seems like a smaller herd in the kind of development stages of the animals' lives. And you'll see these younger ones that are with the female, they will essentially grow up, particularly the females. They'll always live in this kind of group. The males will get to an age where they'll leave, and then they'll live this nomadic life where they'll be forced to look for breeding opportunities elsewhere. It's kind of how you ensure that interbreeding doesn't occur. So this is a relatively small elephant herd. And I'm sure in the next few years, once these elephants, the younger ones, get a bit bigger, they're going to have calves of their own, and this herd is going to get quite a lot bigger. It's amazing to see those ears flapping. I mean, we were talking earlier about how the water behind their ears will cool them down. They've got a super detailed vein network, and you can see she's doing it very obviously. All of them, in fact, are flapping their ears like that, particularly with the water that they had thrown behind their ears earlier. That'll cool. There's very thin layer of skin and lots of veins in their ears. That'll cool the blood down in their ears. And when you're flapping it, the wind over the moisture, that cools the blood down. And then the blood gets pumped throughout the body, and that'll keep them cool. In the meantime, I'm going to stick with these elephants, and I'm going to send you over to have a look at what the weather's doing this afternoon.
Good afternoon from a very sunny, very warm Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve. And just like those elephants were doing over at Ngala with Dan, we've found a blue wildebeest also trying to keep nice and cool. My name's Damon, behind the camera is Craig, and we've come out into probably the worst spot on the reserve to come during a hot sunny day like this, but out into the open plains in search of some elephant bulls that have apparently been feeding through the grasslands here, making use of all the lush green grass thanks to our wonderful rain that we've had over the last few weeks. And we've started off, like I said, with this lone blue wildebeest bull who, when we arrived, was very carefully positioned underneath that, it looks like a bushveld saffron, that tree over there. It's casting a lovely shadow, but he now seems to have other things on his mind. See how he's walked out and he's now staring up the hill. I'm not quite sure what it is that he's staring at, or if he is. Yeah, it looks like he's scanning. There's a couple of zebra a little bit higher up the hillside there, out in the open. They look like they're feeding. I made mention of the long grass. Look at how high that grass is. It's coming all the way up, just about to the zebra's shoulders. They're standing on a road, so that grass is a lot longer than what it looks. I think if the zebra was to actually walk into the grass, some of it might come up to their shoulders. But look at those three at the front there. It looks like they're all resting each other's chins and each other's rear ends. Certainly the front two. Look at how that middle one has got its chin on the front one's back, just resting. Front one bobbing its head around. Look at how they're shaking their heads and their tails are constantly swishing. Can you see that? There's a lot of flies that are buzzing around at the moment. And shame, even this poor wildebeest also swishing his tail, not as much as the zebra are. It's almost like a train, the zebra. The one in the front with its head down, then the next one with its chin on that one's rump, and then the back one also hitched up there. We just need the fourth one. Can you imagine if the fourth one also joins up? That'll be the most ridiculous photograph. There we go. Come on, number 4. Even the third one, or the second from the back, doesn't seem to be as keen on resting its chin as that second one is. He's had his chin there for the whole time. That front one shaking his head around. It's almost like he's got something in his nose or an irritation. Maybe a bot fly or something like that. Apparently there's lots of comments about how pretty the landscape is here at the moment and how green it is. It's unbelievable, and the grass is it's thinned out somewhat because we've had a few days of really hot, intense sun. But a couple of days ago, my goodness, driving through here, you could lose a wildebeest pretty easily in this long grass. That's just how long and thick it was. And that's why these elephants have been down here in the plains. I know you saw a herd with Dan over at Ngala just now. We've been very lucky in that we've had all of the herds of elephants here at Ambiampinda, or at least most of them have been down in these open plains. And that's something very special for us here at Ambiampinda, because most of the year, the herds of elephants with their little ones, they tend to spend most of their time up in the far north of the reserve, in the very dense woodland, which can make them sometimes quite hard to see. And you can't quite get an idea of how many elephants there are because of how dense the bush is. But this abundance of grass and the abundance of surface water down here because of the rains has just kept them down here for the last couple of weeks, and it's been absolutely wonderful. As I said, a pretty hot and sunny afternoon. The sun's pretty intense, and I'm sure that there we go. That wildebeest has moved on to the next patch of shade. Everybody. Okay, but nice to have found this wildebeest, and I'm glad that he's found a comfortable spot to lie down in the shade, and that he is in the shade, because it's way too hot to be out in the sun. We're going to leave this wildebeest and these zebra as they continue with their afternoon. We're going to keep on heading in the direction of a large waterhole, go see if there's any sign of those elephant bulls, and while we do that, let's send you across to Tswalu so that they can say hello.
I absolutely agree with Damon. He said it's absolutely crazy to be out in the sun, and we're here at Tswalu at a very warm 30 degrees, but I think it's even hotter than that. And we also haven't found the shade like the wildebeest, so we're going to definitely be in search of that, because that will be where most of our animals are today, would be under the shade at the moment. You're with me, Deirdre, and on camera this afternoon is BK. So our plan is to find shade. We've got sort of patchy cloud. Every now and again there's one cloud that goes in front of the sun and gives us a momentary relief. But yeah, no real big trees in the Kalahari, so no real place for us to hide. We'll just keep bumbling along and seeing what we can find hiding in the shade. But definitely up until that, probably another hour and a half at least before this heat starts dissipating a little bit. Very, very toasty, but what a beautiful view out there of the Korannaberg. No chance of rain, just some nice puffy cumulus clouds. As BK swings all the way around, you'll start seeing the nice red sand dunes popping out. There they start coming into frame. Just absolutely love that red soil of the Kalahari. The contrasting colours between the red soils, the nice green vegetation, and the blue and white in the sky makes for a very, very beautiful picture. So nothing's really moving at this time. We don't even hear any birds. They're all hiding in the shade. It would be way too hot. Andrew is commenting that the landscape in Tswalu is absolutely stunning, and it is always changing depending on what the cloud cover is doing, the time of the year. I was just looking at photographs from November of last year, and it was just red sand. And because of the very, very generous rains that we've had this season, we're now covered in this blanket of green and can hardly see any of that red soil anymore. So if you're an animal in the Kalahari and you get incredibly hot days like today, your only option is to go and try and conserve some of your moisture by lying under the shade of the trees. Even the birds, I said earlier, we're not even hearing them calling. They'll just find a shady spot and limit all their movement because they can't afford to lose too much moisture. And even the trees themselves, actually some of the acacia trees or the Vichellias, they'll actually fold up their leaves to prevent moisture loss because it's so hot.
If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. Join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effects down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve again this afternoon, where we're sitting right here on a slightly uphill, but looking at a beautiful silver leaf tree or silver cluster leaf, where its name come from by looking at beautiful of a silver that's showing up in name. My name's Andrew on camera. I have Mpo this afternoon. So this is where we're going to begin. Look around for what we're going to find this afternoon for everybody. It's actually a beautiful tree out here, where we always, for us as guides, every time you see a lot of these plants in places where there's a low ground, then you know it's never good for you to off-road. Where the ground is soft, you may sink. And it comes so much favorite for most animals, such as elephants and most other browsers, antelopes. a while ago when I named trees like this as a silver cluster leaf, but a terminalia, where leaf are very much as silver even at night. When you shine around with a spotlight, you pick it up quite easily. And then medicinal uses, if you chew these leaves, would heal or settle down a diarrhea tummy. All you do is just chew those leaves and you swallow the sap on the juices, and then you throw out all the remain. And also used so I'm only asking if some moth and butterfly would eat on leaf, but no, they would definitely feed on or the moisture that is actually occurred within the flowers itself during the flowering time. But also when in the morning, where these flowers sometimes hold a lot of moisture from the low temperatures at night, the whole night. And of course, most of the moths and the butterflies, they would suck this liquid. So I'm going to carry on this afternoon, search around for anything we're going to find. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Steve to say hi to everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a pretty warm and sunny Pryden's Eco Training, where we've caught up with a small breeding herd of elephants that a moment ago were behaving a little strangely. I'll discuss that more at length in a moment while we just say good afternoon to all of you. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? My name is Steve. I'm joined by Gert on camera, and as always, excited to have you with us. It is a very fine 30 degrees Celsius today. There's a few clouds in the sky, but it is quite warm. But we found this herd just across the road moments ago, and this female was seemingly quite relaxed with the young calf, and then what I think was a young bull just ran and just pushed her out the way. But she seems to have calmed down quite quickly. There doesn't seem to be too much else going on. So we're just going to allow you to listen for a moment, and please feel free to send any questions through to us here at Pryden's. Bruce, well, it seems in summer months elephants go a little bit crazy for marulas, so I suppose that's one of their favourite foods. But in the sort of summer months, they love feeding on all the forbs, the wildflowers and creepers. It looks like it's got some form of creeper in its mouth right now. But throughout the year, they can't obviously get that food all year round. It's just like It used to be historically around the world you could only get strawberries at certain times of the year, or mangoes. Now, due to international sort of transport of the stuff, you can get whatever you want yearly. But that's not the case out here. Elephants have to feed on what is available, but definitely the summer months they get a lot more feeding in, a lot more nutrition to sort of see them through the winter months, and then they feed on the really bitter stuff. Any leaves that are left behind, they rip up the bark, eat the bark, and the bark's often quite bitter, as well as the roots of many of the trees. But they do go a little bit stir crazy for fruit, and definitely enjoy the odd marula. Odd ton of marulas, should I say. Very sensitive smell. He's selecting exactly what she wants to feed on there. Because they taste good, Craig. They taste good. Why do we eat things that are bad for us, Craig? Marula is actually good for the elephants. It's not that they don't digest them. They get the juice out of it, but they don't digest the outer sort of skin, and they're not able to really break open the seed kernel itself. So they get a bit of the juice. If you've ever taken a marula and popped it in your mouth, it's very tasty, especially when ripe. When it's not ripe, it's quite sour. So I think it's a little bit of a sort of a change from some of the very bitter food that they find themselves feeding on. So the very fibrous outer shell of the marula comes straight out the other side, but there's definitely something that takes place inside, because don't forget the elephant's digestive system is all about fermentation. So all that fruit in the digestive system will ferment, and it comes out the other side and is an absolutely splendid meal for squirrels and other animals. And well, we're going to probably move on from an elephant, send you over to Juma to say good afternoon to Lauren.
Who doesn't love marulas? I definitely do. Now, we have a great surprise for you, but I believe the species in question has just moved, and I don't have a monitor, so I can't see anything that you can see, but I'm going to rely on my cameraman here. Mr. Darby? Yep. That's who's on camera. Lauren is who's talking. Good afternoon, everyone. And how do I position for this little one, Dov?
This is all right.
We had it perfectly. It is, in fact, a flower mantis, fastly becoming one of my favorite insects. They are incredible, and I actually came out here in the mid-hot sun during the day. We're right next to camp to find this for you all. It took me a while, but I found one. Incredibly camouflage insects with a remarkable survival strategy. You got it, Dav?
Yep.
There we go. To look just like a flower. Now, what they do, this is called aggressive mimicry. And generally speaking, when you use the word camouflage normally refers to species that resemble an inanimate object, like we discussed yesterday, like bark. But really, I guess a flower is not inanimate. It's alive. It's not lifeless. So then we use the word mimicry. It's mimicking the flower of the Waltheria here. And that's why we call it aggressive mimicry, because it's very aggressive. What it's actually doing is trying to lure in the prey, pretending it's a flower, pretending it's got delicious nectar or delicious goodness for the insect to come along, land on it, and bam, snapped up immediately. And that's why we call it mimicry and not camouflage. And the females are much larger than the males, believe it or not. And it's said, lots of research now suggests that the female's hunting strategy, which is to hunt pollinating insects that land on the flower, is actually what shaped the evolution of the two sexes, if you like. So it's led to big, huge females, and they're absolutely remarkable at resembling flowers, and very, very small males, not too unlike spiders. And the males are remarkable at hiding. They're the ones that hide. They don't wait for pollinating insects. So although they're both the same species, they have remarkable different lifestyles. And how it all began, the mantis at one point in its life, the ancestors, I guess, started to hang around flowers. And then they realized, these flowers are bringing in insects. This is great. I'm going to hide behind the flower. And of course, along the lines of evolution, a long period of time, they've evolved to look exactly like the flower. And it's the females that take advantage of this. So the bigger the female, the bigger the prey she can take down. You get small ants that come, you get small flies, but you also get huge butterflies. So the bigger a female you are, the bigger prey you can take down. But there's one problem, if you think about it. If you are mimicking a flower, you've got to stay remarkably still. The minute you move, your game is over, and you no longer mimic that flower. So it's a challenge. And I'm definitely going to jump out this vehicle and take some photos. And as I do that, we're going to send you guys across to Phinda.
Welcome back to And Beyond Phinda. Craig and I have had some success with our elephant search. We found at least 8 elephant bulls that are all stretched out across the grassy plains, and that's, as you've all seen before, and as I said before, one of my favorite things about this part of the reserve is because of how open it is, you can spot things from miles away using binoculars. And Craig and I saw these elephants from far in the distance up on a hillside, and there's only 5 of them here for now, but there's a 6th one on his way, and then off to my right, way in the distance, there's 2 more that seem to be doing their own thing and heading off in a different direction. But since we've been here, they literally have not stopped eating. They've just been using their trunks to grab bunches of this wonderful grass, and they've been shoveling mouthful after mouthful into their mouths. Look at how they use that trunk of theirs to gather up the grass, dust it off a little bit, and then pop it into their mouths. And there's that one walking around with a whole bunch hanging out of his mouth. It looks like he's got a big chunk of uncooked spaghetti in his mouth. And they seem to just be gathering up the top parts of the grass, throwing it onto his head. I'm just going to move a little bit back, everybody, just to give this elephant in front of us a little bit more space. He does seem to want to come down the road in our direction. I don't want to obstruct his path. There we go, that's a bit better. Just listen very carefully to the sounds of them feeding. Oh, but before we do that, Pa, you're asking how elephants keep their tusks clean. So, Pa, I think you're making reference to this bull in front of us here that's standing with his back legs in the road. Those tusks, have a look at those. Look at how pearly white they are. They're really shiny, really clean, in, I suppose, relatively stark contrast to the bull off to the right of him, who's got pretty muddy tusks, covered in dirt, much like the rest of his body. Pi, from what I've seen, elephants don't tend to worry too much about the cleanliness of their tusks. We very often see elephants, well, it's very seldom, at least here at And Beyond Phinda, that we see elephants with tusks as clean as this elephant bull in front of us. And I think the reason that his tusks are so clean is that he's been using them to dust grass off before he puts it in his mouth. Often you watch elephants when they're feeding on grass, they'll gather up a bunch and they'll almost like clean it off on their tusks. See exactly what he just did there now. Thank you for illustrating that for me, elephant. Yeah, so they'll almost like brush off if there's a bit of dust, a bit of dirt on the grass before they eat it. But most of the time, Pi, it doesn't seem to be a concern for them to have mud on their tusks. Like I was saying, at least the bull off to the right of him and all the other bulls here that we can see, they all seem to have pretty dirty tusks. Just thinking about elephant pictures as well, elephant photographs that I've seen and elephants that I've seen elsewhere in southern Africa, it often tends to be elephants living in very grassy areas where they feed mainly on grass. They seem to often have very clean tusks. A lot of photographs I've seen from East Africa, from Amboseli, the Masai Mara, the Serengeti, barring elephants that have in those areas that have just had like a mud bath or something like that, they tend to have pretty clean tusks from all the grass that they've been dusting off on those tusks. Craig and I are going to spend a bit more time with these elephants. There's, oh my word, there's a 9th elephant bull that's just appeared. But behind these bulls, there is an absolute behemoth of an elephant bull. He's got big tusks, and I'm really hoping that we can try and show him to you on camera. So Craig and I are going to wait for these bulls to keep on moving through, wait for the bigger guy to come through, and we'll head across to Tswalu in the meantime to see what's going on at the waterhole.
So we've just got some Egyptian geese bobbing around the dam. And the good news is that this female has still got 9 of them. 9 goslings are still doing really well. And yeah, they're just all over the dam. So lots of the youngsters, they're getting almost their full adult plumage at this stage. They're just sort of slightly paler in coloration compared to the adults. But they are doing really well. So sometimes they have it lucky, but to have raised 9 to this stage is done really well. And then there is the only other bird sort of enjoying themselves is BK, let's come here. We've got something very interesting. There's a wasp dragging a locust on the ground. I've just seen him going past. How awesome. Just watch that wasp, and then he's picked up an entire locust, and it's like twice his size. Look at that. Look at the speed at which he's moving. Oh, I think he's looking for a particular place to take it. So he's running along at speed. Check, and he'll come back. So that'll be one of the spider hunting wasps. But, you know, dragging a locust like that is most likely stung the locust and then paralyzed it, that it's not able to move, and then it will try and bury it but lay eggs in it, and then as the wasp hatches as a little caterpillar, it'll feed off that meal before it then pupates. But that is just amazing to see on live TV. And the insect world is often so overlooked, but just look at that strength. That is incredible, the speed at which it's moving, plus the fact that it's carrying something that's probably at least 3 times its weight. So I don't know exactly where it's going to take it, but that's already moved more than, I would say, almost 10 meters while we've been watching it. So on the screen you don't necessarily see the distance, but it's already gone beyond the car, up and close to almost over the dam wall. What an amazing feat. It's almost like we've put it on fast forward, but that is genuinely the speed at which it is moving. Chris is commenting that this is incredible. I absolutely agree with you. It's my first time seeing a wasp drag a locust, at that speed as well, it might be looking for... What I always find amazing is that the wasps, they've either already dug somewhere that they're going to go and bury it or lay its eggs in it, and it knows exactly where it wants to go. So it's dragging that all the way back to a set location, and how they manage to find that location in the middle of nowhere always amazes me. So it's gone... So it's left the locust, but it's moving around. The wasp is moving around in the little thicket at the back there. Maybe it's just looking for exactly where it wants to put this locust as hidden, because remember, that locust could be a food source for a bird or something else. So it's got to get it well hidden quite quickly, and maybe that's the reason for the rapid movement, to just get it out and get it hidden, so that the locust doesn't become a snack for something like a hornbill. But isn't that just amazing? There it comes back. I think that's about to go out of shot and disappear completely. Real, very, very busy. It's even too fast for BK at some points there. Just so busy moving around. So not the typical, a lot of the areas you find like a spider hunting wasp, it almost sounds like a helicopter. These ones don't make noise. We don't hear them flying around, but it was just very, very nice to see that. And that's it. So from the peaceful scene on the dam to the wasp and the locust. So we're going to send you across to Pride Lands. It also has some elephants to show you.
Well, how interesting, everybody. Wasps preying on insects. Well, a very good example of how relaxed elephants can be is when you park off. She's listening. And they come right up to you. You're right here in front of us. Female and her calf. And hear them feeding. Got a bit of a stumpy tail. Hello, Mama. Say hello to Gert. Soft eyes, beautiful eyes. She's going behind the car. But to add on to what we were discussing before about favourite foods, they definitely do feed primarily on grass this time of year. Very green, juicy grass. And as the grass starts to dry, it loses its nutrients. And as the grass will reabsorb those nutrients back into the soil, into the roots, as a preparation for the fire season. And then they'll have to switch to the other foods, but they will feed on trees and bark and leaves as a sort of balanced diet. You see, there we go. Very balanced little nose. What happened to your tail, little one? That's a brave little boy. You're very brave, aren't you? And they've now gone right behind the car. I'm not going to start because she's very relaxed, but still for me to start the car in reposition, I could influence her, and I'd rather not do that. So, we're going to show you this beautiful tree once again on our right-hand side. Oh, she's moved. That'll be good. I'll actually turn now just slightly. Okay, well, while we try and reposition, get you into... Okay,
She's moved into the shade of this marula tree. We were just enjoying some shade. This car is not like the short little Zuma vehicles that you can turn on a penny. This one requires a number of attempts. And there we go. Sure, that was hard work. So they move from shady spot to shady spot just like we do. And a lot of the forbs that we have growing actually grow quite well in the shade. A lot of our shade-tolerant grasses, the buffalo grass, the Panica maximum is a shade-tolerant grass that grows very well in the shade. Oh, she's actually got an injury on her backside from that elephant's tusks. She's bleeding a little bit. I don't know what that other elephant was doing. I thought it was a young bull, but it just charged her, just rammed her out the way. And then she moved off a bit, and then we saw her again a minute later, and as if nothing had happened. Very strange. See, from shady patch to shady patch. Here comes another elephant down the road. Joshua, elephants are active most of the time. They will have times in the heat of the day when they just sort of stand around and sleep on their feet. And then there's also times at night where you might find them lying down and sleeping. But they're generally pretty active. About 22 hours a day they'll move around feeding. But they will have to have a nap at some point. There's more elephants joining at the back there. I wonder if that's a couple bulls. A bit far off. We'll stay with these two for now. Those other two are probably going to come in this direction. I'm going to switch off again, just let you listen. There's lots of nice bird calls.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day Eco-Training Ranger experience for 2. Eco-Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco-Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back to Ambiampinda. Just as Craig and I had hoped would happen, that big tusker has joined the rest of the bulls here. Now there's this one in front of us we can see quite clearly. He's just put the Kai apple branch into his mouth. Behind him is the big tusker, now concealed behind the Kai apple. So a bit tough to see his ivory for now, but I'm hoping that he keeps on walking and that maybe we can reverse back a little bit and try and get you a view of those magnificent set of tusks, or that magnificent set of tusks that he's got. The elephants seem to have also slowed down here. When we first spotted them, they seemed to be moving quite, I won't say quickly, but they were moving with purpose, kind of across the hillside here. But they've slowed down in this particular area, so probably a really good patch of grazing that they've found here. And this bull supplementing the grass with a bit of foliage. Okay, the big bull's come out, everybody. Sorry, we're going to have to reverse back a little bit if we are to get a view of his tusks before he turns around and we can't see his face. So please just bear with us while we reverse a bit here, everyone, because it will be really, really worth it if we can get a nice look at him from the front on. And often with big tuskers, that is the best, well, it's definitely the nicest view, and it's the best way to appreciate their tusks. Often from the side, the tusks don't look quite as big as they are, especially if the tusks curve. But there he is, moving up the hillside. Some of you may recognize this particular elephant bull. Have a look on his left ear there's that very distinctive tear at the top of his ear, and there are those massive tusks. Look at how far down they come. They come down just before kind of where his knee would be. Certainly that right tusk long and straight, whereas the left one a bit more curved. And he is absolutely enormous. Look at how far down that belly of his hangs. It hangs almost right down to his knees. And a massive head, even compared to these other bulls. He's got a much bigger head, a much thicker base to his trunk than the others. And then obviously those very thick, long tusks, all signs of an elephant bull in his prime. And he's still slowly moving along. I think we might actually be able to get another view, because it would be really nice again to get a look at his tusks from the front on. So I'm going to reverse us back one more time, just to see if we can't get a better shot of him, but also maybe even get all of the bulls in one shot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at least that we can see in this little area. The big bachelor herd of elephant bulls. Most of them, like the one we saw earlier that had the very clean tusks, younger, and then there's at least 2 or 3 older, bigger bulls, like this one here with the big tusks. Unfortunately, the grass is so long that it's going to be a bit hard to see, but I think that's going to be our best view for now. We'll see maybe if he comes Every now and then he lifts his head and you can see a bit more of his ivory. But yeah, look at how much thicker those tusks are than that bull we saw earlier, whose tusks we were remarking on how clean they looked. Look at how he's holding just his one ear out, now both ears. The breeze is blowing straight from him to us. And earlier Dan was talking about elephants flapping their ears to help to keep themselves cool. Why flap your ears when you can just hold them out and the wind blows onto the back of them for you without you having to move them? Also making good use of all the grass here. Noel, you're asking a very interesting question. You're asking if the offspring of a big tusker like this will also have big tusks. Noel, so with elephant ivory, the size of the tusks is a genetic trait. I suppose also their growth will be influenced by their nutrition once they're actually born, but it's not guaranteed that his offspring will have big tusks like he does, but they will carry the gene to have big tusks. So it may be, of course, with genetics, if the female that he mates with also carries that gene, and if that gene is dominant, then there's a pretty good chance that the offspring will have big tusks. If it's not dominant though, if it's a recessive gene, then it will take, then the percentage chance of the offspring having big tusks is a bit smaller. But if they both carry the gene and that gene is dominant, then the odds of, then the calf is going to have big tusks. Without getting too complicated in terms of the calculations with genetics and, Anyway, so hopefully we'll see in the next couple of years. I'm not quite sure that we know exactly which elephant calves on this reserve he has fathered. And it may even be some of these younger bulls that are moving around with him, may even be his offspring. And we've certainly seen some young elephant bulls on the reserve that were born here that have got some pretty impressive tusks for their age and for their size. There's two in particular that I think by the time they get to the age of this bull, they'll have tusks as big as his, if not bigger. And often with elephant bulls, the growth of their tusks tend to grow quite long and thin earlier on in life, and then once they get into their later years, kind of their 40s into their 50s, those tusks start to grow exponentially in weight as they start to thicken. That's when most of the mass apparently gets kind of deposited, or that's when the tusks tend to grow the most in terms of their mass, is in the later years of their life as they start to thicken, and then that mass grows exponentially. But you can just imagine for this elephant bull, another thing I've noticed about him, and have a look at his head compared to the bull to his right. Now I know the bull on the right is quite a bit further away from us, but look at how much smaller that head is in relation to his body compared to the big tusker in front of us here. And this old bull seems to have a really, really big head in relation to his body size, even compared to other big bulls on the reserve. And obviously those tusks much thicker, so much bigger kind of openings in his skull and in his lip line there, those sockets where the tusks go into. But just imagine for him as well how heavy that head must be. There's the mass of his skull, the mass of his trunk, and then the additional mass of those enormous tusks to support. Craig and I are going to keep on watching these elephants. It'd be really nice to try and get another view of this big bull with his big tusks. While we wait for him to come out of that thick grass, let's go back across to Tswalu.
So we're back at Tswalu, and we've got a very unique antelope there. We don't see them every day, but a very nice roan bull. And he was lying in the shade. He might even consider lying down again. He's chosen a really tiny tree to lie down, but there was enough shade there for him. And he's just got up now, so now he's just scratching. There's probably some louse flies trying to bite him in the ears there. Yeah, incredibly long ears that they do have. He can hear me, that's for sure. Just a really, really impressive antelope. So the second largest antelope. So he's quite tall. He's well over 1.5 meters at the shoulder. So quite tall relative to other antelope. And then that beautiful sort of black and white coloration on the face. But both male and female will have those curving back horns. The male's just thicker and slightly longer than the females. It's just adjusting position, yeah. But I mean, side on, they're incredibly impressive. Very large neck. I've actually yet to see 2 roan bulls fighting. I think that would be quite nice for me to be able to see. Haven't seen that, but they can fight quite aggressively. They'll sort of tip their head right down and then clash their horns to fight. And with them and the sable, they do tend to go down on their knees to fight. Because of the heat that we are experiencing today, he doesn't want to move around too much. Moving around too much results in sort of moisture loss, and then he struggles to maintain his temperature. So that's why he would rather just stay in a shady spot, wait until it gets a little bit cooler, and then he'll still have time this afternoon going into the evening to browse a little bit before going into the evening, and then he would most likely spend the evening lying down. We think he is on his way to the watering hole. We've just come from there, but we're going to send you across to Andrew, who's also at a watering hole.
Good luck, dearie, with the roan antelope. It's just a land mammal, but now we've got actually a water mammal, where the hippo in their pool still, they're actually doing a beautiful activity there, playing inside of the water. Since yet is not a time for them to move out of the water permanently for feed, where they will do that when it's cool off, the dark take place at night. Quite a big a number over here. So looking at maybe 4 of them there. It's probably females and they're all the youngest. Can't be all hers. Maybe 1 or 2. And the rest from maybe another mother. Hippo, they eat grass when they're outside of the water. Jackson, so you're asking if a hippo mate for life? The females, they gather around as a group, and of course dominated by male. You know, depending on the amount of watering hole around here and an amount of difference, male, those are not dominating sometimes. The group can split between, and the others head off different way, and that bull would defend them not to return back here, because otherwise it's going to be fight if the two bulls ever together. But the lack of, maybe shortage of males, they would actually mate for life. Those are the group of females. But only males, then the dominant change quite often due to the power where the challenge take place. Another male will force to come in, you know, to take these part of the hippos as all females. And that's where the fight begin. So on males, yeah, can change quite often, but the female, they remain as a group forever. Those are males that grow up here. Those are born in this group. When they're fully growing, more likely to be pushed off sometimes by the father. And then for them to choose their way out, and the only female that will remain in this group. Charles, so you're asking how much time do they spend outside of the water? The whole night. So usually some of the people, they will get up anything from 7:30, or latest 8 o'clock at night. And then 1200, 1800, will definitely start to make their way out of the water. Those are skittish. They remain for longer, maybe 2100 until they get out. But those are not really afraid of anything. They're not skittish. They tend to get out quite early. And the time that they spend from there until sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when they return back to the water. So it looks like the whole night they spend outside of the water. And then all that night when they're outside of the water, since there's no sunshine, and the whole skin of this animal, it's all a little gland which produce oily secretions, which is able to soften the skin since they're outside of the water. Back to the water early in the morning, they're still fine. But if they would spend a lot of the days outside of the water during a hot day, then of course it's a problem, because that's oily. They'll run out of it and the skin dried out, resulting in crack bleeding take place. So I'm going to continue doing my search around here, see if I can find any tracks that we can follow for a cat. I'm going to be sending you across to Apenda.
You're back with us here at Ambion Pinda, and unfortunately this big tusker is still playing hard to get in terms of giving us a nice view of his wonderful tusks. See, he's currently buried in that thicket in front of us there. Looks like a mixture of thorny carees and kai apples. See how the bush is moving. It seems like he's actually pushing himself into the bush. Maybe trying to reach into the center to get to some tasty creepers. Or perhaps, I can't see any fruits on that kai apple, but there might be some that are hidden away in there that the birds and other animals haven't got to just yet. That he's maybe trying to reach with that trunk of his. That's not a very big thicket, and an elephant of his size, with a trunk as big as his, I'd expect him to be able to reach in there, even from outside of the thicket, no matter which way you look at it. With all of these bulls still very slowly moving through this area, it's obviously, like I said earlier, a really good pasture, really good nutritious grass. And I don't know if you're able to, or if you've noticed with this, the light has changed a little bit. It was earlier pretty bright and intense, and the sun is slowly starting to sink towards the western horizon behind us. And with that, the afternoon's gently kind of cooling off, but there's also suddenly an abundance of bird calls. I don't know if you can hear, there's a very high-pitched metallic chinking sound. I'm going to keep quiet, see if you can hear it. Like a tink, 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 tink. And that's from a Zitting cisticola, a tiny little brown bird that lives in these grasslands, that at this time of year often does little display flights. And that's the sound that it will make while it's doing that display flight. So they'll fly up out of the grass, and they'll do like they'll kind of fly along straight and then do a little dive, and then fly along straight and then do a little dive, and then fly along straight. And as they do that, they'll give off that zitting sound. And they're all displaying in this long grass. There's a couple of barn swallows also that are flying around the elephants. No doubt feeding on the insects that they're disturbing as they feed. But yeah, unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to get another look at this elephant bull. I think Craig and I are going to move out of this area. We've spotted some rhinos glistening in the distance, their bodies covered in mud on this hot day, and we're going to see if we can try and get closer to them.
There are millions of people and animals around the world that call forests their home. From the gorillas in the bamboo forests of Rwanda,
about 10 feet away from a silverback gorilla,
to the elephants in the Congo rainforest.
there's a really big chance that this elephant has never been seen by another human being before.
This World Wildlife Day celebrates forests, forest species, and the countless livelihoods they sustain.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
We have a baby pangolin. A baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to And Beyond Ngada. What we managed to find in the long grass, lying in the shade of this guarri tree, looks like a few members of the Birmingham Pride. And I can see what looks like an older lioness that's quite close to us. It looks like there's those 2 cubs who are around a year old that are also hiding under the tree. I'm sure their mother's at the back there as well. It's just a guess, though. It just looks like there might be 4, maybe 5 lions underneath this guarri bush, just taking it very easy. I mean, it is a very warm day. We saw those elephants earlier that had just finished wetting themselves, cooling themselves down. These lions as well are taking advantage of the good cover.
Sorry about that. It's very, very efficient for them. They live upside down, they feed upside down. They actually even... Davi, I think that's our dragonfly. I think this is the Lucia widow. Just up here, I don't know how to describe it to you. Possibly 7 o'clock at the very end of the branch. It's a black dragonfly. Can you see it? We'll get there, everyone. We'll get there. We had this one for you this morning, but then we raced away to Tandy. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to jump out the vehicle. I do not know how to show Davi exactly where this dragonfly is. There you go, it flew. You got it. Okay. We did it, everyone. Took a while, but we got there. Does it look like the same one from this morning? I am not so sure. It's definitely got dark wings. We came to this exact spot and found the Lucia widow, which is very, very exciting. This is a great little hidey hole for insects. I can't see everyone. Maybe if I got my binos out, that would work. Anyway, going back to the spiders, I just wanted to give you a good look at that insect so you can all identify it for me. I think it's a widow. They do everything upside down, absolutely everything. And if you think of land animals, they're using the ground as their main support. Humans, we use the ground as our main support for every single motion that we do. We ground ourselves, really, and we've evolved to have legs that are capable of supporting our weight, our entire body, no matter how heavy or how light we are. Spiders, it's not really the same for them. They spend most of their lives hanging suspended from webs anyway. They sort of walk, if you like, and I use that word loosely, by swinging under the influence of gravity. So they swing, 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 and that's why they don't need to worry about being the right way up. They can actually be upside down. So they've evolved disproportionately longer legs. So this orb web spider that you're actually looking at can't really walk on the ground properly. They can, but they won't get very far. They haven't evolved that way. They've sort of evolved in such a way that their entire life is to be suspended in midair, hanging from a web. They're different from your average spider, if you like. So this means that they can easily lift their really large body mass. Look at that body. It's a big body with these long, long legs by just suspending themselves. And it's far easier to be upside down. They save more energy that way than to be the right way up. And they actually have a technique, I love this, they call it bridging. That's the technique to move between plants. And they actually build their own silk bridges. And they walk across them, again, suspended, upside down. Chris, you are right. That is one huge spider. It's actually not as big as the golden webs. I'm going to take a closer look, everyone, because I've got no sort of view from the car. Let's see if I can... Oh, it could actually be the Band-Aid. Hello, beautiful. Yes, this actually may be the Band-Aid. I was wrong after all. I can see the black and white bands on this. You can see how huge she really is. And you see that sort of ziggy-zag pattern going down the web? That's called the stabilimentum. In science, they're not really sure the purpose, the function. They originally thought it might give stability to the web, but that was proven not to be the case. Oh, okay, don't come any closer, girl. I think you're beautiful, but yeah, we'll just stay friends this way. Oh, wow, she's gorgeous, the coloration on her. And you can see at the front, all her jaw parts, her mandibles. But what I don't see, everyone, is the male. Oh, wait, there is a spider here, but I don't think that's the male. The males look exactly the same in terms of the shape. They'll also stay in that position, upside down, in that sort of X shape, but they'll be tiny. The females absolutely dwarf the males. Must be terrifying being a male orb web spider. Terrifying. You live your life in fear of being eaten by your girlfriend. I mean, it's not great. But anyway, I think this is a Band-Aid. If I'm wrong, you're welcome to tell me. And down here, we've got a little dewdrop spider dove. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. And it looks literally just like a tiny little dewdrop of water on the web. Okay, we do have a surprise in store for you. So we're going to make our way there. And for now, we're going to send you across to Swallow.
So we've just found 2 male ostriches, but both of them male. And sometimes if you have a look at them, they're incredibly hot. Their wings were wide open and their beaks open, panting. We might just have to wait till they come out in front of the bush. Yeah, they're going to come out this side. Let me go forward. Just hang on for a second. So what I did notice between the two, as soon as the one started moving, with ostrich, if one is more dominant than the other, he actually lifts his tail in the males. So it would suggest that the one on the left-hand side is slightly more dominant than the one on the right. But it's not always the easiest to see. So just sort of white and brown tail feathers. It's not uncommon to find mixed group of ostriches together, or just males, just females, or males with females. But you can see when they're incredibly hot, they just hold their wings out open, hoping for a breeze to blow over their thighs. They don't have any feathers on their thighs, or their big, I call them big drumsticks, really. But they also do struggle in the heat, and then even opening their beak to try and let heat dissipate. A little bit forward again. Let's try again. It's just the odd one tree in the way. So yeah, they are relatively far away from us. So their predators out here would be lion, leopard, even cheetah. And for the youngsters, if there are any little young ostriches around, then jackal, and then the eggs would be prey for prey. I suppose the eggs would be food for brown hyena, jackal, sometimes even baboons. But it's not really it's not nesting season at the moment. So Tegan is asking the question, when do ostriches mate? So it's generally around the end of the winter season, July, August, in that they'll mate, and then sitting, once the female has laid the eggs, she'll sit on that nest for 90 days before those eggs hatch. They're quite large eggs. And she'll lay anywhere up to about 14 eggs. And sometimes there's sort of less dominant females in the group that will also add eggs to that nest. It's known as egg dumping, but the most dominant female will lay her eggs in the nest, and then she puts her eggs in the middle, and then she uses the subordinates' eggs. She just puts them on the outside. So if a predator like a brown hyena happened to come along and chase her off the nest, it would grab the closest egg, which would generally be an egg of a subordinate. I'm just going to keep going a little bit further forward. There we go, BK. So the males and the females do take time on the nests, and one of the reasons why people believe that the ostrich males have got black feathers is that they tend to spend the night time on the nest, and then the females have got the lighter brown feathers and they tend to spend the daytime on the nest. So as they walk off, we're going to send you across to Phinda.
Welcome back. You've got us just in time. We've managed to catch up with that rhino we could see in the distance, and it turns out it's a mom with a tiny calf. But the grass is so long that it's very hard to see it. Can you see just to the right of the mother, there's those little ears and a little hump sticking up out the grass. That's the little calf with its little ears swiveling. Sticking close to its mother. Look at how the mother's tail is curled up like that, everybody. I couldn't see if she was... See if she's maybe defecating. If she's not, that kind of behavior is normally quite indicative of a rhino that's excited or upset. But the rest of her body language suggests that she's not nervous or upset. Maybe she just caught the scent of something. There's a bit of a stronger breeze that blew across the front of her, coming in from the left of the screen. Maybe she caught the scent of something. To see her back above the top of the grass, heading down the hill. That gives you an idea for how tall the grass is at the moment, everyone. I mean, that rhino, it's probably 1 meter, 60 centimeters at the shoulder, maybe a bit more. 1 meter 70. and it's just the top of her back that's sticking out. And as they disappear, sure, we race to get to everyone. I'm glad that we at least managed to see that rhino and her little calf. I think they're going to keep on heading down the hillside looking for more grass to eat, and maybe heading towards the thickets at the base of the ravine there for the evening. Let's go back across to Steve.
Thanks, Damon. How awesome. See some rhino this afternoon. We've stumbled across a juvenile martial eagle that has got a crop full. And we were driving down the road and it was actually on the floor on a small mammal. We don't know what it was. We quickly reversed all the way back up the hill, hoping that it will go back. Massive birds. Martial eagle is probably one of the most impressive raptors you'll come across. Look at that beak. Feed on a wide variety of medium to small mammals. I've seen one with a steenbok and a Sharpsgraesbok before. It was feeding on the ground. But they do very, very well with monitor lizards. And we kind of think what we saw was a scrub hare, but we're not sure. We reversed very quickly. So incredible hunting strategy of this bird is it soars very high. Incredible eyesight, say between 5 and 6 kilometers away, and dives down, smashing its prey. Sometimes can hunt from a perch, but does not hover. It's too heavy to hover. Breekkop-arend in Afrikaans. Breekkop. What does a breekkop mean? Wide-head. Wide-head eagle. Arend is an eagle. Polymetus bellicosus is a scientific name, both referring to the very versatile and aggressive nature of its hunting abilities. Polymetus is derived from the Greek word polymos, meaning war, and etos, eagle. Bellicosus, Latin word for war-like. So war eagle, warlike is its scientific name. If you are uncertain about where the name martial came from, there it is. I might ask, how did I know it's a juvenile? The adults are completely dark on the head with a sort of white spotted chest. Hello, Amanda. You want to know the weight? They get up to just over 6 kilograms. The females being slightly heavier than the males. Generally, in your large predatory birds, the female is a bit bigger due to the fact that she spends more time on the nest and the male spends more time bringing food. So him being a bit smaller is a little bit more sort of energy efficient. With the wingspan up to 260 centimeters. That's a big bird. Whenever you see the martial eagle flying, you see it's got that crest on the back there. That's a very characteristic feature. We see it sort of in the Wahlberg's eagle as well, the crest. But you never get confused with the two. The size is just phenomenal. And that beak, very, very powerful beak. I've seen this fellow around a few times.
Okay, everybody, well, we're going to stay with this marshal, see if it comes back to its kill. Meantime, we're going to send you over to Annabelle Binder.
Unfortunately, Craig and I weren't able to get another view of that rhino and her calf. But with all this abundant grass, there's just grazing animals everywhere. And it wasn't too long before we found some more animals that are also taking advantage of all this lovely succulent grass, and in the form of this herd of zebra. And there's been quite a few groups that have been crossing the road here in front of us, heading down the valley, just like those rhinos were doing. There's a group of maybe about 10 or 12 of them off to our right, including 2 that appear to be, I can't quite see from here if they're fighting seriously or just sparring, but there were 2 that were really going at it for a bit, jumping up and down and rearing up. Even now, look at those 2. It looks like the one's biting the other one. Like I said, I can't quite see. I'm looking through my binoculars. I can't see if he's actually... Oh, wow, no, okay. Oh my goodness, he's actually got the other one's ear in his mouth. And there's flying hooves and kicks going everywhere. Every now and then you can just hear this thudding sound of a hoof connecting with the other zebra's hide, and the odd clamping sound or clacking sound of jaws trying to clamp down onto a target, but then missing. The sounds of teeth clacking together. Probably 2 stallions. Perhaps a young male stallion trying to come into this dominant stallion's territory and trying to take one of his mares away. There we go, the commotion seems to have subsided a bit there. There's a few more zebra in front of us though. It seems like there's quite a few herds in this area, all taking advantage of the lovely long green grass. Here they come, filing down the same game path as the first few herds. And just looking at them, all of these groups have had males, females and youngsters, so all different kind of family units, different harems that have all come together around the abundance of food. We're going to keep on moving, everyone, to go see what else we can find for you for the evening. Let's go across to Lauren at Juma and see what she's found.
We have managed to come across Mr. Maribs, who's just chilling in a fantastic looking marula tree. Would you look at that? No sign of Tandy yet. Very close to where we had them this morning, or where we left them. And we do have a very random hyena. I think it's Comet. Could be wrong, you'll see from the view that we have. I'm not quite sure what Comet's waiting on. As far as I know, they don't have a kill in that tree. Reeves is just chilling, living the marula life. I'm guessing Tandy's somewhere. He's obviously hot and bothered. Oh yes, and tired. Bless me, everyone. Sorry, I just sneezed. But why the hyena's waiting, I do not know. Maybe hoping that a leopard is going to spring out of a tree and kill something. Oh, it's nice to see him. Oh, he's hot. It's incredibly hot. I don't actually know the temperature for today, but all I can say is it's hot, hot, hot. Almost feels like we're in full swing of summer again. Although we're constantly reminded that actually we're not. We're moving further and further away from summer. But Tandy's belly this morning was absolutely ginormous. So she was full. I'm not entirely sure about Maribs here. On a hot day like this, it's actually the perfect place to be up in the tree, especially under a full canopy. Kathy, you're saying you love his face. He's adorable. And he's becoming better and better. I do remember a few sightings with him where, I'm not sure if skittish is the right word, but he was nervy. He wasn't fully sure of vehicles. I remember those days. And he's obviously very comfortable in the trees. The vehicles can't get to him. The hyena definitely can't get to him. Although he seems to have no fear of hyenas, that's for sure. But it was just lovely seeing them interact this morning. If any of you missed it, we did have Tandy and Mareebs together. And he just wants to be with Mom. He just annoys her and annoys her and annoys her. And he constantly whips his tail around her. It's really interesting behaviour. She also does the same to him, but I would say he's a little bit more tactile. And this is actually really important in leopards. The tail has sort of large number of functions. Not only to balance in trees, not only for communication, interspecific communication and intraspecific communication, but also for social bonds. So although leopards are not really said to be the most social animals, they are social, especially when mothers and cubs are together, let's say. And that's why they constantly wrap their tail around one another. It's maintaining their social bonds. It's affection, really. I guess the human term would be affection. I've done a really horrible job at parking here. We may have to move soon to get into the shade. Comet's disappeared. Shall we go forward, Dobby, and get some shade? I think that's a brilliant idea. Ah, there's Comet. Thank you for putting your head up, dear. I think it's him. I don't think I can handle staring into the direct sunlight anymore, but there's a nice patch of shade there. So we're just going to move ever so slightly forward and relish the shade.
On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. Walking enables access to the smaller parts of nature, such as bugs, spiders, and flowers in much greater detail.
These are the wing buds right here. Isn't it just amazing?
I've never seen anything like this before. It is so beautiful. Look at those little legs.
Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pridelands as we reconnect to the place that first taught us how to be human.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back to Tualu, and we have found something quite interesting. We found a very large group of vultures in the trees. That there is a white-backed vulture. Unfortunately, most of them flew off, and there was at least one big lappet-faced vulture present as well. And then we had a look around, and we found a carcass that seems to be from late last night. We had a look at it earlier today. So that's why we've come back here. But it's a carcass of a gemsbok, but it looks like it's died naturally. But it had 1 or 2 puncture wounds in it, so we think possibility that it was a bull, and that it possibly had been fighting with another bull and had sustained sort of puncture wounds from the horns that had gone sort of septic, and then it had died as a result. So there had been a couple of jackals that had nibbled on it since early morning, and then we're quite perplexed at this stage because there was a large number of vultures, but none of them were on the ground feeding. So we don't know if there's potentially a predator present around that we can't see, and that's why the vultures haven't come down to feed. But we'll definitely we'll move on, allow the vultures to come back, and then hopefully we can sneak in a little bit later and see maybe the vultures squabbling over that. The volume of vultures that were here would finish that within a couple of minutes. So that's what we are hoping to see, but the vultures have to come back first. So that's just one white-backed vulture out of many that was here, but they all have scattered in all different directions. And it's not like it's an old carcass that is putrid and that the skin is too thick. It's slightly open, which is why we don't understand why none of the vultures have even got into it, and they haven't even started attempting to finish that. But it won't take them very long when they do. Once the first brave one lands on the ground, then the rest come in, and they'll all start squabbling over what's left. So most of Tualu's vultures actually nest outside of the reserve, on the Malopo River, probably a good 80 kilometers north of the reserve. So they've come from quite far. But we're going to send you across to Steve, who has a bird probably about the same size as that vulture, maybe a bit bigger.
Welcome back, and how perplexing. I hope Deirdre figures out what exactly happened there. Our martial eagle is still perched on his branch, her branch. I don't know how much meat they can put in their crop at one time. The crop definitely looked pretty full. One of our big 6 birds. These birds are under quite a big threat around the world. In Africa, should I say, regarded as vulnerable. In South Africa, but they're near threatened in IUCN. We don't see as many marshals as we'd like to. Those of you who don't know what I mean by the big 6 are the big 6 birds that you come to the Kruger National Park to see, and that is the martial eagle, the Pell's fishing owl, saddlebell stork, lappet-faced vulture. Okay, well, I'll have to remember the other 2 off the top of my head. I'm going to quickly send you that over to Lauren.
This is probably the best view we're going to be able to get right now. He's jumping all over the place from branch to branch to branch, but we're facing into the sun. So we can only really offer you a silhouette, but ribbons here. Good old ribbon. And comet. I don't know why they're here. There's no kill as far as I can see. Unless there's a very, very old kill of Tandy's. That's also possible. Okay, the other vehicles are moving, which means we'll also be able to reposition a little bit, which is great news. So that we don't have to quite face into the sun. I mean, hyenas do follow leopards. That's entirely normal. However, once they discover that there's no carcass, there's no delicious treats waiting for them, it's really uncommon for them to hang around. So maybe there's something here that we're actually missing. And maybe once we get closer, we'll be able to piece that together. Okay, we're not going to be able to get any closer. There's two other vehicles here, I'm afraid. Oh no, I spoke too soon. You ready, Davi?
Let's do it.
My goodness, this is a very, very tricky sighting. Yeah, I think if we go round, we're going to get a view of him. Yes, I see his little face. Here we go. Now, for those of you wondering about off-roading, Rexon is here. He's sort of in charge of the land. So we do have permission to off-road in this area. I'm not sure we're going to be able to manage this. You got him. Davi's got him.
He's got a kill. He's got a kill.
Oh, he's got a kill. I can't see anything. What's he got, Dov?
Don't know.
I'm testing your knowledge.
Maybe an impala.
Maybe an impala. Okay. I can see a beautiful, beautiful sort of vegetation patch in front of me, a combretum. It's a russet bush willow, actually. That's my visual. At least you guys all get to see the leopard. That makes sense that he's got a kill. There's no way Ribbon and Comet would be here otherwise. I'm glad we solved that mystery. Is it full?
It's just a leg.
It's just a leg. Okay. Well done, Darby. You're doing good. In case any of you wonder why I can't see anything, I'm going to show you. This is my view. That's what I can see, so just in case you are unsure. I'm going to rely on you and Jarrett to tell me what's going on up there. I think Tandy will be here somewhere. She's probably just taken some time out. Some mum time. Seeking shade somewhere. Oh, thank you, Jarrett. I'm getting commentary here. It's exactly what I need. My Reeves is chewing on the leg. I wonder if it was Tandy's kill, because she was just enormously full, and she collected him from Chitwa. He was very close to the Mulwanini, where he seems to spend most of his time. And then she's brought him back here, and he just follows her. He just follows Mom. So I wonder if that was her kill. And he's now munching on it. He will kill, he will sustain himself on numerous little small things. Of course, Mom allows him to feed on her kills too. And slowly but surely, he's going to start having to practice his hunting techniques. He's going to have to make lots of failed attempts. There was statistics that I think are quite out to date now. For the Kruger Park, I think it's a few years old now, it was leopard kills or attempted hunts only result in success 16% of the time. 16. That's very, very low. So they stalk, They hunt, they ambush, but it's not always successful. I mean, that's less than a fifth. So it takes a lot of practicing to home in on your skills. Claire, I don't think Mareebs could. And I've actually never seen a leopard do it, but I have had this question before, where I have said I don't think leopards do jump out of trees to kill their prey, and lo and behold, many of you sent me videos proving that they do. I don't think it's a common occurrence. It's a dangerous operation to jump out of a tree onto prey. But I mean, they're so agile, they're so lightweight, they're so flexible, really flexible spines, and extremely powerful shoulder blades. So it's definitely possible, yes. There's definitely YouTube videos. I think there's a YouTube video for everything, actually. But I don't think it's a common occurrence, and I don't think a young male like Mareebs would be able to do that. I mean, he may try. He's very, very brave. We've watched him chase off hyenas numerous times now. But yes, leopards can jump out of trees. But they've also got to be careful how they land. Although they're very nimble on their feet, they can't really afford to risk injury. One wrong landing could result in a severe injury, which means they couldn't hunt. And they're solitary cats, after all. I mean, once Mareeb disperses, he's on his own. Yes, he will mate with the ladies, but other than that, he's on his own. Oh, it looks like he's trying to move the leg to a more secure place on the tree. It'd be great if you could just move up a branch, Mareebs, and then I might be able to see you. If it's not a full carcass, then I don't think it's his. I mean, he was picked up on Chitwa. We are now on the very southeastern corner of Djuma, just east of Ledwood Road. So Tandy was bringing him here. That's what she was doing. And actually,
There's a squirrel in the tree.
there's a squirrel. Davi spotted a squirrel. Is a squirrel losing his mind?
It's shaking his tail.
I don't think a squirrel would be very happy to see Mareebs at all. Our very own Wally dispersed as well, so every time I see a squirrel, my heart feels a little heavy. I do miss Wally, but it was time. He took a very strange liking to my hyena soft cuddly toy, so he was definitely ready to go out into the big bad world on his own. Bless you, Davi. Caleb, you're 8 years old. It's a very tricky question. Mareebs, we are in the low veld of South Africa. We're actually on the sort of western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. So it's a very, very dense area of woodland, if you like. And in summer it gets very, very thick. As you can see, the grass gets very long. The sort of vegetation gets very, very full. And that's perfect if you're a leopard. Leopards in Africa generally tend to prefer being around riverine systems. That's their preferred habitat, where there's a river system. And we're really not too far away from the Mulwati right now, which is our river system. And there's actually 9 different subspecies of leopards. Caleb, 9, can you believe it? So we're looking at the African leopard, naturally. But there's lots of other different types of leopard around the world that have different habitat choices. They won't, of course, all be the same. You have the Amur leopard, the Javan, Arabian, North Chinese, Sri Lankan, I've seen a Sri Lankan leopard, Persian, Indo-Chinese, and Indian leopard, as well as the African. So it's 9 different subspecies, and every single one of these subspecies will have a different preferred habitat type. But of all the big cats, of all the Panthera species, leopards are the one that has the broadest habitat across the world. But Mareeb's habitat is here in the low veld. He spends his time on Juma, Torchwood, and Chitwa. And we're in an area called the Sabi Sands. And he clearly loves marula trees. Leopards are arboreal. They spend a lot of their lives up in trees. Their bodies are specially adapted for that. Life in the trees. It's safer. It gives you height advantage. You can cache your prey, your carcasses, keep them out of reach of Miss Ribbon and Co. Seek shelter. There'll be nice shady patches. I'm sure you could even seek shelter from the rain as well, in trees that have a really thick canopy. Keegan, you are 9 years old and you're asking what type of animals do leopards prey on? Well, that's a very good question because almost anything. There was a wonderful study done that showed a leopard can eat a huge range of prey species, up to 92 different species in lots of different phylums. So you will find leopards eating antelopes, impala, duiker, steenbok, nyalas, wildebeest. Then you will find them eating reptiles, monitor lizards, snakes. We found Tingana eating a rock python a few times, tortoises. You will find them eating frogs when they're young. Mareeb's probably snacks on frogs when he can catch one, and birds. We actually had a sighting with Mareeb's not so long ago where he was feasting on an Egyptian goose. And we've also had Tingana eating fish. Dead fish. He didn't go and catch them himself, but still, he was feasting on all the delicious catfish. So everything, up to, and insects, that's the one I forgot. How could I forget that? You will see leopards feasting on termites, the alates, when they're streaming out of their holes. They pack a good protein punch, filled with all sorts of nutrition. And you will see leopards standing above that hole that the alates are streaming out of and eating up all the alates. So in answer to your question, Keegan, almost anything. They're also opportunistic. They will steal carcasses from each other, and they will eat carrion, rotten flesh. You won't see them eating fruit. We were talking about marulas earlier and how everyone loves a good marula, but you won't find a leopard snacking on a marula. It doesn't quite appeal to their taste buds. They also don't require that type of nutrition. Cats actually synthesize their own vitamin C, their own ascorbic acid. They don't have to get it from the food that they eat. And although marulas are very, very high in vitamin C, 4 times more than an orange, they don't need that. Their body provides that for itself. Thank you, Jared. Mareeb's is still chewing away. I really wish I could see him. We will try to reposition in a bit. It's a little bit of a tricky spot. The vegetation's so dense. Everyone's a little bit nervous about getting stuck. can hear the woodland kingfisher. That sound will soon disappear. And we'll miss it. We complain once it's here, and then when it goes, we miss it. Oh, many of you are saying it's nice to spend time with Mareebs. Absolutely. He is such a stunner. And really, if you think about it, generally speaking, we will only have 6 months left with Mareebs until he will become ready to disperse. He could disperse at 18 months, he could disperse at 20 months. But it's coming, so we need to make the most of our time with him. I'll never forget the day Hosanna really did disperse. We all knew it was coming, but we didn't want it to happen. Okay, I'm going to sit and gaze lovingly at my russet bush willow, and hopefully soon we'll have better views for you all.
Just look at that. It is absolutely incredible. And as far as I can see, that all falls within the reserve. So it is a vast landscape, but we are gifted with these incredible things. You know, the wildcats, the aardvark, you name it. It just keeps on delivering. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here.
And when you think it could not get better, Mother Nature says, hold on tight.
Oh my word, that is gorgeous. We are cooking on gas this afternoon.
Have a look at what we've got. Look at how this is the best day of my gutting career so far.
We have a baby pangolin. A baby pangolin. We're just gonna go very quietly, very quietly. There's your aardvark. And for those of you who've never seen one, this is one of the big safari specials on any reserve.
I'm just holding my cap because otherwise it's going to blow away, and with this storm coming towards us.
Absolutely beautiful to be able to see water flowing in this volume in the Kalahari. Oh, look at that. You can see the structural component of these flowers. It is perfect. Such a treat to be in and amongst these incredible insects. How lucky are we? You can see how close they are to the vehicle. Very curious.
Oh, you can do it! There we go. We made it over. Whew. But look at that view. That's absolutely stunning.
You can see how they're going into stalking mode. Okay, there we go. This one female is gonna walk straight past the car now. Absolutely stunning. Look at that. I mean, do we just not have the best jobs in the world? That was it.
Welcome back, everybody. What we found here is, so I left those few members of the Birmingham Pride, and I was following up on reports of a pride that has just come in from the eastern side of our property, and here they are. It looks like there's quite a lot of them here. It's certainly not the Birmingham Pride, and there has been some interesting line dynamics at the moment. In this pride, I'm not 100% certain which one it is. I'm going to have to do a bit of research tonight as to who they may be. I've got to try and spend a bit of time having a good look at some key features and key markings on these lions, there are quite a few young males, in fact. I mean, there's these two that have just popped their heads up, looking like two pretty strong males, maybe around 4 years old or so, that would be my guess. Their manes are starting to grow quite nicely, maybe just less than 4 years old or so, but looking big and strong. And a few days ago, there was an interesting commotion around Orpen Camp, which is just on our eastern boundary. And I was reading up about there being a little bit of an interaction between two different prides. Obviously, we weren't there, so I'm not 100% sure which ones they were. And I'm sure this is one of them, and it looks like this one has kind of come out on top. I'm sure the other pride has gone more east again. Very, very interesting. I mean, my options for this pride, initially I thought it might be the squirrel pride. It looks like these young males might even be the Mbiri males from east of us. And it might even be the Mayan Bula pride. I'm going to have to phone one of my friends or another guide who guides up in the Timbavati. That's normally where they're hanging around. But if I'm not mistaken, the Mbiri males are in charge of the Mayan Bula pride. And these guys are moving west into our property. They're actually putting quite a lot of pressure on the Birmingham pride as well. That's why they're kind of scattered all over the show at the moment. I wonder if there isn't a bigger, more dominant male in this group. I mean, there's a chance that these younger males have kind of joined up and formed a coalition. And I've seen at least 3 or even 4 young males here. There's a few lionesses as well. No small cubs. I mean, that's not to say that there aren't small cubs elsewhere, maybe not moving around with the pride just yet. I mean, it is a hot day. They're kind of lying in the shade. There is a few signs of movement. I can see some tails in the distance. Look at that yawn. Big, strong teeth, eh? And just lying in the long grass. Very tricky to actually see them in the long grass if you're not paying too much attention. And let's see what this male does. Is he cleaning himself? No, he's actually cleaning what might be his brother. Very, very interesting to see these guys moving west into the property. From how it seems in the past few days, they've come from east of us. If it is the Mayan Bula pride, they've come from kind of north of us. That's not unheard of. They could have come all the way on the through the Kruger in that wilderness block on our eastern side. Here comes a lioness. She's up and kind of walking towards us here. Also looking like she's in great condition, hey? I mean, even with that so-called fight at Orpen Camp that somebody was talking about a few days ago, it doesn't look like these guys have been in too much of a fight. I can't see any fresh scars or wounds, and they're looking healthy, nice and full. There's one lioness that we drove past on the way in here, and she was looking a little bit skinny and a little bit out of shape. But that's what happens when you get a bit older. She's got the benefit of having the rest of the pride here helping her hunt. So I'm going to sit here for a little bit. I mean, it's getting to that time of the day when a couple of them are starting to move around, and they might start to hunt as it gets a bit darker. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Andrew.
Good luck, Dan. We are now just find our beautiful brown snake eagle over here. And it's perching on one of these dry knob thorns for its own hunting situation. So brown eagle, snake eagle, one of the eagle that they specialize with all reptiles, snakes, lizards and things. They're well designed with these legs, talons, without a feather on them. So a snake can bite on those, but there is no blood vessels running through those legs. And they're very flighty sometimes, never relax. Eagles, they just fly off immediately. Everyone, you're very much right there. It's so much beautiful, it's really majestic bird. And it's actually scanning around. Hopefully for our sighting, it's great. From that height, we'll spot something small, kind of movement on the ground and fly, catch it. And most of the eagle, they fly by hovering around, but these one will perch and they wait for any movement. That's how they spot their prey. I'm going to continue with my search. I'm going to be sending you across to Steve.
Good luck, Andrew. I hope you find what you're looking for. We found something quite awesome in the golden afternoon light. Very nice, as always, to stop and spend moments with spiders. I know some people are not too keen on seeing them, but don't worry. They're all the way over there in the web. And when I say all the way over there, they are. There's obviously always more than one spider in a golden orb, with her little trash line or junk line behind her there, which makes the web quite visible. And there on the top of the screen, down, bottom of the screen now, sorry. The little fellows over there, there's one over there. Yeah, there we go, there's the male. Now, and I always like to do this, I always like to count the... Ooh, he's a fantastic male. He's still got 8 legs. I often find these guys without a couple of legs. And if we go up again, there's another male. There's another one. He looks like he's missing 2 on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side of his body. And there, right in the middle of frame, a little bit off left, is a little bit more to the left, sorry, other left. Bottom right corner now. Very small little spider. Here's the very, very, you can see it, it's just above that sort of middle of screen now. Looks like one of our dewdrop spiders living in the web. They don't seem to sort of succumb to the wrath of the female in the nest or in the web. They are stealing food from her after all, and yet she doesn't ever seem to charge after them. You always find the males hanging around in the periphery. They're benefiting off the female's food that she catches, and so is this little kleptoparasite. In the right light, that little abdomen of it is a very, very, looks like a little drop of mercury. Very well anchored. Fantastic nest. I don't know why I keep calling it a nest. It's gorgeous lighting. We couldn't resist. I know we do talk about these spiders often, everybody, but the light through the web was just gorgeous. It's just dipping behind a tree now. Quite thankful for a little bit of a coolness is coming over us.
mildly venomous. If you did get bitten, that would just lead to some headaches. I suppose maybe if you did develop an allergic reaction, it might be more, oh, he's coming to say hello. Okay, well, he's being a very, very brave fellow, but we're going to send you back over to Lauren, who's having a wonderful afternoon with a very cool young leopard.
Oh, we're live. I did not get that comms. I do apologize. We're just letting another vehicle. Okay, we're just gonna reposition here. Finally, we have a little bit of space. And now I can see, which is absolutely wunderbar. Oh, hyena, June. June, where have you come from? Is this okay? Left hand, which is my left? Sorry, guys. The sun's getting to my head. This is my left. So now we have Comet, Ribbon, and June. The whole Juma clan's arriving. Hi, June. This is definitely not a new carcass, that's for sure. And hyenas can follow scents up to 3 days old. So slowly, one by one, they're all going to pick up on the scent of the delicious food that Maribs has here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it, but we can actually hear him crunching. You can hear it. This is actually a stunning marula tree, I must say. Marulas are the best. Just Ash kills him.
Anyway, I'll put this master for recovery on the Deadwood Road. Anyone interested?
Okay, sorry, that's my game drive radio. I am really hoping Tandy makes an appearance. But as sort of the age Mareebs is at, he's going to spend more and more time away from Tandy. And as sad as that sounds from a sort of human perspective, he has to learn to be independent. He has to learn how to hunt on his own. He has to learn to face threats on his own. He has to learn how to navigate the landscape on his own. June's gone flat right at the base of the tree. You can't actually see her, but she's there. She's probably lying on her back with her mouth open, just hoping that every scrap falls in. And I got asked the other day at the Kuchava sighting, was he not scared? There was a hyena there. Was Batman not scared? You have to think like a leopard. They are used to seeing hyenas. From when he was a very young cub, okay, not, in the first 6 weeks, but after that, Mareebs will have seen hyenas very often. Every time his mum has a kill, every time there's a kill in the tree, they're not unfamiliar to him. So yes, they're the enemy, but he's very, very familiar with hyenas. And it's a numbers game. The more hyenas, then he's completely outnumbered. But they're familiar with them, just as hyenas are familiar with leopards. Look at him looking at June. Oh, you be careful, Mareebs. If you drop that, you are not getting that back. Robin, absolutely not. They're completely solitary. We see lots of leopard interactions out here, so I think there's more to leopard social dynamics than we're completely familiar with. However, they are solitary, and you will only really see multiple leopards together when it's mother and cubs, because the daughters will the daughters are pushed to independence first. They're the ones that really leave around the age of 18 months. And the sons can stay up to 2 years, but there's actually some cases where the sons will leave a lot earlier than 2 years, and there's some cases where they leave a lot later than 2 years. But let's just go with the average figures. Daughters start to be pushed to independence at 18 months, and then sons 24 months, And up until that point, you'll see them together a lot. You'll also see mating pairs together. So when a female and male are mating, they'll stay very close to one another for a sort of prolonged period of time. But other than that, leopards are solitary. I mean, there was an incident a couple of months ago where Tingana, Mulwati, and I think it was Hukamuri, I'm afraid, were seen at a kill together, feeding on the carcass at the same time, which is just incredible. But at the end of the day, when there's food involved and there's enough food, you've just got to try and take what you can get. And I'm a firm believer that all the leopards out here, at least the adults, they are aware of one another. Tingana knows exactly who Mulwati is. And of course, he used to know exactly who Hukamuri was. If a newcomer came into the area, then yes, that would throw a spanner in the works. But otherwise, they are all very, very familiar with each other. And I'm not necessarily saying by social interactions, I don't know why I can't speak there, or visual interactions, but they're definitely aware of each other by scent. They have to be. Okay, the sun is going down now, so there's we can breathe. So we're going to sit here and enjoy watching Mareebs crunch away, and we're going to send you guys across to Ngala with some lions.
Welcome back, everybody. So it seems like these lions have got up now, and the majority of them are moving slowly in a northerly direction. One of the younger lionesses has kind of gone leading the way. A few of them have now flopped down in front of us. But we're in an awesome position here. I mean, the sun is setting. It's not so easy to see it from here, but the light is beautiful. Right behind the bush, unfortunately. But we're in a really good place. These lions are slowly up and moving towards us. Will give us a really good idea as firstly how many there are. There's 2 that have walked past us, 2 lionesses. See a third one, then let's try and see how many young males there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So far, I can only see 4. There's a lioness behind us that's softly calling and calling. I think that's what lots of these lions, their ears are up listening. It's that time of the day though, and they seem like they're not starving. They're in really good shape. They're in an area where the game density is quite high as well. Long grass makes hunting somewhat easier, and I mean, full moon was a couple of days ago, so they're probably going to try and utilize the earlier parts of this evening to hunt. So let's just go quickly past me. This lioness on behind me seems to be softly contact calling, and I wonder if she's not trying to encourage the rest of the pride to come and join her. wonder if you can hear that. It's soft calling. So because the moon was full a couple of days ago, that means it's going to be still quite large, but it's only going to arise a couple of hours after sunset. So for those first few hours after sunset and just as dark as starting, it's going to be incredibly dark, which makes hunting a little bit easier for the lions. When the moon is full and they've got the advantage of having the light around, the prey species can in fact see much better as well, disadvantaging the lions. But this is very interesting. I mean, I wonder, I haven't seen a large dominant male that's come through here just yet. It's just these few younger ones, and they're all actually coming towards us. So I'm going to ask Odie to quickly go back over to the left-hand side. The lionesses seem to be moving towards us, and it's an area, I mean, that lioness that's softly contact calling is giving their position away, unfortunately. But it's amazing. This one's just kind of stopped listening. And here she goes. So it seems like I've counted 13 here at the moment. 13 lions. From which pride I'm not 100% sure. My options are probably Squirrel Pride, Mayambula Pride. Looks like these might be the Mbiri young males. So I'm going to have to do a bit of research this evening and try and see. There's another one there. These two have just kind of done a little bit of greeting, lie right on top of the other one. Here come a few more of these lions. All of them seem to be up. These younger males, they look like they're between the ages of 3 and 4. Just getting super strong, getting to that dominant stage. Oh, there's a big lioness here closest to us. There's an older lioness as well. She's not looking so good, in fact. She looks like she's on her last legs. Her face is super scarred. Look at these guys coming right in front of us here. Young males are actually quite inquisitive. They've looked at us a couple of times, the vehicle as well. So have a look at this lioness. Look how skinny she is. Her hips are out. Her ears are completely eaten by ticks and things like that. As they get older, the deterioration of their ears is a good way to tell their age. She's a small lioness as well. Old. She might be close to 15 years old. I'm sure she's not in the prime of her life, that's for sure. But I'm sure she's been an incredible, one of the reasons that this pride is doing so well. 13 members, they're all pretty much fully grown lions as well. There are no little ones around. And seeming to move further east into our property, kind of exploring nomadically at the moment. Well, that's what it would seem like. And the beauty of being in these unfenced open wilderness areas is that these different prides of lions come in on a regular basis. And just that kind of message that I got a few days ago about the interactions at Auckland Camp make me think, or confuse me actually, as to which pride this is and which pride they were fighting with and which pride has gone back west into the Kruger. It's quite amazing when they just walk right past you like this. I mean, the grass is, this male's watching me very closely. Just watching, quite curious in fact. There's a hyena that's actually come into the picture as well. In the distance there, they're actually watching him. I don't know if you can see it, Odie, just behind that quarry. I don't think they're going to put too much attention on the hyena. They may just watch it. The hyena may watch them as well. I mean, the hyena may very well have picked up on their scent, come in and investigate, just to see. I mean, often lions are around carcasses, so it's worth it for the hyena to come in and have a look. They're not really going to try and have a fight. I mean, there's lots of lions here. It looks like a single hyena. Oh, and there it goes running away. That's the best form of defense when you're coming up against a large pride like this, is actually make way, particularly once you've realized that there is no food and it's not worth coming in and risking an injury for no reason. So I'm sure that hyena will make space. If there was a carcass around, however, I mean, you often see hyenas on their own, moving around, kind of looking for food. And if it did need kind of backup from the rest of the clan, they live in these clans or these groups, you would hear that hyena calling and calling and calling, almost for reinforcements. If they really wanted to come in and try and compete with this pride and try and overthrow them and try and take their food away. They are certainly on the move, listening, smelling, looking around, looking for an opportunity to hunt. As I was saying, with the moon coming up a little bit later this evening, the early hours of the evening is going to be best for these lions. I mean, I've counted at least 5, maybe even 6 young males now. Sorry, I'm in the way now. Having the added strength of these young males, I mean, they're not always so good on the initial hunt, but having the extra size and strength of these younger males allows this pride to actually start targeting bigger prey, such as giraffe and buffalo. That'll also go a long way to feeding this pride. It looks like on our left, this lioness is actually stalking 2 hyenas. A quick look at her. Oh, do I ever get scared being so close to the lions? I mean, it's quite amazing to be so close, and quite a privilege as well. There are times sometimes when they look at you and you're like, oof, I wonder what that lion's thinking. But it's not, when I'm in the vehicle like this, I don't really feel too worried. And it's taken a long time to kind of, what we say, habituate these animals to vehicles. It's a completely different story when you're on foot. I mean, they've never had any reason to be threatened or scared of these vehicles, so they don't. I mean, particularly some of these younger lions, they often get inquisitive and curious, so they often come up towards the vehicle. So when they start doing that, it's actually quite important to teach them, or to kind of show that this isn't necessarily a toy or something to hunt or move around. So when they start coming and chasing after a vehicle, it's quite important to actually make a little bit of noise to kind of distract them. But they've never had any reason to be threatened by these vehicles, so they don't see it as a food source or feel threatened by it at all. Look at this lioness. She was stalking 2 hyenas, it looked like there. Hyenas that were getting too close without seeing her. She's got a big head, this lioness. Big and strong. She's kind of just watching us, trying to see which is her best way around, whether go behind us or in front of us. She's also keeping a good lookout at the rest of the pride that have kind of walked past us, just to make sure that she doesn't lose them. And I mean, when the lions are walking ahead, you'll often see, I mean, when she's walking like this, you can't see those black tips to the ears. As she turns around, you can start to see the black tip to the tail. But in this long grass, you'll see these lions walk with their tails curled up. You can sometimes see the black tip, but very obvious when they walk is the black tips to the ears. And let's see if she walks past, you'll see those black ears standing out quite a lot. And in the distance, you see how she's like flicking her tail like that as well? Tail at quite a nice level for other lions to be looking at it through the grass. The lions in the distance, you can just see those black tips above the grass, behind their ears. I mean, so they're walking with some purpose here. They're going north. They're not anywhere near a boundary of us going north at the moment. Came in from the east. They wouldn't have to walk too far to cross out back to the Kruger if they went east, which is very possible, particularly if they spot some prey. Looks like a few of them on the right-hand side have actually stopped for a drink. That lioness is going over to the right to go and have a little drink in what looks like a seasonal pan after all the rain we've had. So I'm going to try and get ahead here, see if there isn't some prey around. We'll see what these lions get up to. In the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Lauren with her leopard.
Mareebs is not very happy. June is disturbing him. Now, I just realized that I gave you all the wrong information earlier. I'm so sorry. I knew this would. No, June's just here, Davy. I don't think you'll get a view. You can just see the grass moving. Yes, I knew this would happen when my wisdom tooth got removed. So yes, when I said that we'll only have 6 months left of Mareebs, that's not the case. Sorry. It's the females that are 18 months and the males that are 24 months. Give or take. So we will have about another year with Mareebs wandering around before he really starts to think about dispersal. So forgive me, everybody. He's got a lot of growing to do. Although looking at him like this, he looks big and powerful, huge paws. He's still got a lot of growing to do before he really reaches the adult size of a male leopard. Even Hosanna, when Hosanna did disperse, he was huge, but he was not the size that he is now. He's massive now. It's very scary to see photos of Hosanna and think it's the same cat. He's a very big male leopard. He's got fantastic genes, of course. But Mareeves is really still just a baby. He eats and then he checks on the hyena, then he eats and then he checks on the hyena. And I'm not actually sure if there's any examples of male leopards being philopatric, mean that they stay at home, they don't leave. They stay in their natal grounds. I imagine that would happen. That's definitely possible depending on the environment that they're in and how much space they really have. With the Sabi Sands, it's very tightly packed with leopards, and what I mean by that is their territories are all stacked up next to one another, and the density of leopards is very, very high, and therefore dispersal is far more common because they have to find their own space. But it's very possible in other areas, definitely not Sri Lankan, but maybe the Amur leopard. Maybe because the density will be so low that they don't necessarily have to disperse. If they don't disperse, it's said to be philopatric. They stay in their natal grounds. But it'd be really, really interesting to get the statistics on that. Oh, that looks yummy. Braveheart, what a fantastic name for so many reasons. We now have a hyena cup called Braveheart, and of course, well, Braveheart, Scottish, you know. Carcasses in the tree. More often than not, they fall. They're dropped. And that's exactly what happened with Kuchava and her son the other night. It was dropped, I'm afraid. And I did get to the bottom of that mystery, just in case any of you are curious. It was never Tandy. It got called in as Tandy. It's a really easy mistake to make, don't worry. But it was actually never Tandy. It was always Kuchava. So it was Kuchava's kill, and Kuchava crossed into Chitwa to get her son, and they returned to the kill. So that mystery is solved. But yes, more often than not, they fall. And of course, you've got the scavengers lying in wait. The hyenas. I mean, there's 3 hyenas here that I know of. If they don't fall, they'll just hang in the tree. Javi and I were driving, I think, 2 days ago on this very road, actually, and we just found, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was the remains of a very, very, very old carcass hanging in the tree, and it's still just there. But of course, it will degrade, it'll biodegrade, it's organic material. So after a while, due to weathering and heat from the sun, it will eventually degrade and then end up falling. Whatever part of the carcass is holding it on the tree, be it skin or bone, it will eventually biodegrade. But otherwise, it'll just stay in the tree. I mean, the leopards do really finish their carcasses, but of course they won't eat hooves and they won't eat stomach contents. They'll leave skin behind, and that's normally what you see hanging from trees. But good question, Braveheart. I see the little squirrel now, Davi. It's a very brave squirrel. Sharing a tree with a leopard. Hanging upside down, look at that. Defying gravity. How close are you going to go to Mareeves, little squirrel?
Not far.
quite close, apparently. Leopards will absolutely eat squirrels. I've watched Tlalamba hunt squirrels, I've watched Dandy hunt squirrels, but of course Mareebs is very, very occupied right now. Jerome, he's not full. I did look back on my photos from this morning, and he's not bulging like his mother was. Dandy's full, so she doesn't need to hunt for a day or two. But I'm not sure Mareebs will be. This looks like just a sort of remainder of a carcass. So he'll still be hungry. But leopards are very curious cats, like all cats. And if Tlalamba has anything to go by, then anything that comes their way, he will try and hunt. I'm talking small things, like squirrels, like gerbils, like birds on the ground. He will try. He's at that age. Okay, we're going to sit tight here and hopefully get a better look at all of these hyenas.
There are millions of people and animals around the world that call forests their home. From the gorillas in the bamboo forests of Rwanda,
about 10 feet away from a silverback gorilla,
to the elephants in the Congo rainforest.
there's a really big chance that this elephant has never been seen by another human being before.
This World Wildlife Day celebrates forests, forest species, and the countless livelihoods they sustain.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at and beyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through and beyond Ngala on Wild Earth. Send me live questions through the Wild Earth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu, Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
Welcome back everybody. So we're still with this pride of lions and they're seeming to move, as we mentioned earlier, with quite a lot of purpose. They're moving. Just stand by, I just want to chat on the radio quickly. Yeah, Barney, just keep coming north. If you turn off, I'll turn on quickly. So it looks like this male has found what looks like an old giraffe skull. It could very well have actually been killed by lions. So Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio quickly. So look how he's playing with it. I mean, that's a very old skull, and there's certainly no food on there, but it's a source of entertainment for this lion. And lots of them, in fact, actually came right up towards the skull, played with it, kind of chewed a little bit. I wonder if that's in anticipation for what's going to happen later. We were mentioning, I mean, these lions taking down bigger prey, particularly about being such a big pride with such large members. I mean, lots of young males who've got a serious appetite. A giraffe, a big bull giraffe like that, would go a long way to feeding them. And sorry, I just want to quickly move slightly. Have a look at one over there that's seeming to have found something else that's quite interesting. And look at this one, he's kind of stalking in the grass. Let's see if he doesn't go and stalk and play with this one that's coming right up here. Okay, cool. I've also got that other vehicle coming in here. That's what I was trying to get in on the radio. Look at that one there. He's got a big branch in his mouth. I mean, they're still young lions, seeming to find any source of play, whether it be a tree or a skull from that giraffe. They're also hanging at the back, a lot of these younger males, letting the older lionesses... Look at that lion, he's missing the black tip to his tail, actually. That's quite an interesting diagnostic for that lion. That'll be a great way to try and tell him apart and to see what pride they actually are from. That black tip to the tail is missing completely. And look at them. I mean, it's always fun. Yo, that didn't sound too good. It's always fun when another lion's got a stick. Get very jealous very quickly. That seems like a hell of a big branch, though. It's not a small stick, in fact. Kind of using it as cover to try and hide from the other one as well. Putting its head right through there. Be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they compete even for a small stick like that around a carcass. I mean, these bigger males, they've got the older lionesses. I mean, even that one that's just stood up there, she's a big lioness and she's smaller than these males. Around a carcass, there'll be such competition for food. Look at him. He's kind of taken it right out of his brother's, or I'm assuming his brother. He said, no, you can't have this stick today. So I'm just going to get my head out the way. Let's see. Now the one who he took the stick from is also up. And now he's going to try and see if he can steal it back. I mean, that's a big branch that looks like it's been broken off by an elephant. Quite fresh as well. You see the green leaves still. It hasn't died. It's still very soft as well. It's seeming to provide a serious source of entertainment. I mean, here comes the third young male in there. There's a lioness that's getting involved there as well. Even this lioness that's closest to us has found herself a smaller stick. I think they've lost interest with the rest of the lionesses that are up ahead of us, kind of on the hunt, moving through. They're going to let them do the hard work, and once they hear like an alarm call or maybe even the sound of an animal dying, they'll be there very quickly to help take the animal down. But these young males can often be such a hindrance to the more experienced females on a hunt. They'll blow the cover, or they'll go too early, or they won't get the wind right. Look at these two fighting. Oh. Big lioness, eh? That male came through, kind of put her on the back of the head, and now he's getting a lesson from one of the older lionesses. She's kind of getting teamed up on here. The young males are bullying her a bit, but you see how she's not taking the rubbish so much? Oof. Look at how her ears go back. Oof. I mean, it's not a serious fight at all, but did you see how they were kind of jumping on their back legs, using those paws as almost boxing gloves, particularly trying to get the blows to the head. Even at times they were kind of trying to trip them up by their back legs. Wonder if they've kind of lost interest with that stick as well. There's still one lion that's playing with that big tree. The lioness is quite relieved that the younger males have left her alone now, I'm sure. And particularly those young males being quite a lot bigger than the females. They've got lots of energy and they're trying to play. But they're bigger and stronger than she is, so it can be quite tricky for her. Particularly when she's getting ganged up. Okay, so I'm gonna stick around here a little bit longer, see what happens as they keep going. I'm gonna send you over to Pinda in the meantime.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. It's been a little while. We've done quite a bit of traveling through the open plains and have since started to make our way back in the direction of the mountains around Mountain Lodge. And we've managed to catch up with a pride of lions that was seen in this area this morning. When we arrived here, they were quite active, moving around in the grass here. No doubt having just come out of the thickets in which they've been resting for the day. We saw how those elephant bulls earlier had mud on themselves, how that wildebeest bull was lying in the shade. And that's how these lions would have coped with the heat today. They would have been lying in a dense thicket somewhere, shady, but where they could have gotten a bit of a breeze blowing over their bodies. And now they've come out into this open clearing where they can really get that cool air blowing over them. Having a look at that one, look at the one lying on its back there. Have a close look, everybody. Look through your binoculars or have a look through the zoom of the camera. Look at how fat and round that tummy is. Now, we're not too far away from where there is a giraffe carcass that we think was struck by lightning during a big lightning storm we had a couple of days ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if these lions have been feeding on that carcass, looking at how their tummies are pretty swollen. It's a couple of days old, so the meat is not exactly fresh anymore. It's quite stinky, to be honest. But for these lions, it's still food. And providing it isn't completely, well, I suppose if they were desperate, even if it was completely rancid, they still might go and feed on it. Look at that one youngster off to the right there, how it's smelling around by itself. Smelling the ground and looking back towards her siblings and the two lionesses, and all of her siblings watching her very carefully to see what she's getting up to. And looking at the youngsters, they all seem to be, obviously this one that's walking around is the prime example, but even the other two youngsters are looking pretty awake and restless. Here we go, the one stalking. Here we go. One of the youngsters is stalking that female that went off by herself. And I was just going to say now, with the cool of evening, with relatively full bellies, it's the perfect conditions for these lions, these young lions, to start playing. So let's see what happens here. Look at this stalk that's busy going on. Wait for the pounce. Right until the last minute. Shame, her poor sister didn't have a hope. She was going to get pounced on. But it was at least a rather gentle pounce, not a knock the wind out of you, knock you off of your feet kind of pounce. And now look how they kind of locked in an embrace. Okay, apparently Lawrence has something very exciting for you. Let's go across there and see what she's found.
Oh, the drama between Mareebs here, and I think it's June. He dropped something, so he came all the way down. No, it's not June. Both of those ears are up. I can't see who it is from here, I'm afraid. And this hyena came, so he tried to jump up the tree, but he ended up on a completely different tree, and it doesn't look very stable, Mareebs. No, I think you should go back up the Marula. I'm not sure what he dropped. I'm not sure if it was the entire... He's actually done a very good job. I think that's completum over there of sorts from the bark. I've lost quite a lot of light here. Now you're just posing. It's actually highly unlikely that the hyena would hurt him. Really. The hyena was just coming, and maybe it was June, to see what he dropped. And now he's not sure what to do. Oh, that wasn't so graceful. Now, if Mareebs does decide to venture off into the thicket, we're not going to follow him because it is so thick and we're losing light. And I think we've had more than enough of a wonderful sighting with them. Off-roading is still case by case. So we're just going to take the tracks that we took to get in here and follow them out. So let's see what he does. Can you see him, Davy?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to see what Mareebs does here, and for now we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Great, so we eventually find, looks like a small herd of elephants doing a dust, a bathing, as well as a feeding in a small group. They might come from the west. In the Simbambile, we are on the boundary, western boundary of Djuma and Simbambile, that area. And looks like they're going to cut into Gari. But there's been no elephants around here. It's cool to have them back. And some, they were actually marked charging on impalas on the far left of us. As this female, she's still not too sure. She's still looking at this impala on the other side there. They don't really like other company. I agree, everyone. It's so much important. It's so cool to have elephants group. It looks like it's a hell of a lot of them coming right from that thicket. They're going to cross the road while we're watching them. You can see impalas making their way out. Female right in the end. Gotta be one of the matriarch, making sure that everybody's leading in a good direction that you want. So I'm gonna move forward, try to stick with them. So in the meantime, while we're sticking with this elephant, see how far they're going to go. And I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren.
Well done, Andrew, for finding elephants. I have not seen one single elephant since returning. Now, Mareebs did go down the tree, wandered through the grass, and he bumped into Ribbon, and I think Kai-Cow. And then he decided that this was not a great idea, and he's going back up the tree. So we are now back up the tree.
Let's go to infrared.
We are going to go into infrared. Your picture is going to change from color to black and white once Davi pushes that button. I've seen Mareebs chase the hyenas. I wonder if it's just there's a little bit too many. I've seen Ribbon, June's here, Comet, and I think Kai-Cow's also here. That's 4 hyenas for a young male leopard. There could be more. What you gonna do, boy? At least you've got the tree. I really don't think they would harm him. They would just chase him. That's exactly what I would do. Lie down on that branch. It looks rather comfortable. I was going to visit the hyena den tonight. I'm very far away. And, of course, a lot of the hyenas happen to be here. It doesn't mean it won't be active, though. So if he does come down the tree again, we will head there. And unfortunately, it doesn't leave much promise for tomorrow because there's nothing left. I mean, he may still be here, but it's not likely. Sometimes it's just nice to sit, listen to the sounds of the evening as the sun is going down and watch a magnificent animal go about their daily life. So as we sit here a little bit longer, we are going to send you guys across to Swallow.
Isn't that just magnificent? He is walking away from us, but in that nice golden afternoon light, a spectacular kudu bull. He's got a pretty impressive set of horns there and a solid neck. I mean, it's almost wider than his ears. So really in his prime, ready to look to find other males to fight with. But he has been practicing earlier against the bushes. He was using his horns to just sweep the bushes. They do have sort of scent glands on their faces, and then they'll rub that on the bushes, but it's more good for practice. That seems like it's the last glance, and then he's going to potentially disappear from us. So he's walking through the typical areas that you'd find them in, sort of a thicket, because they are predominantly browsers. So, I think, let me go forward and we'll keep him. Try and keep him in the shot. So, there he moves off just underneath the shepherd's tree.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We get asked quite regularly what are the differences between African and Asian elephants. We caught up with Haresh, who's from Leopard Trails, which is based in Sri Lanka.
Of course, size and weight is the first thing you notice. The African elephant is much bigger than the Asian elephant. Tusks in the Asian elephant, it's a very small percentage of male elephants only who have tusks. I was told that there's a theory that the African elephant's ear is in the shape of Africa. The Asian elephant has a much smaller ear. The elephant represents the bush and the jungle in Sri Lanka in a quintessential manner, and I think it's very important that we do whatever we can to protect them.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross is trying. The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Mareeb seemed to have settled for the evening. I think we will leave him shortly after this and take a bumble, see what else we can find. But he's perched quite happily in the fork of this marula. And going back to the diet, I was asked if he's going to hunt again to feed. Obviously, he's a young male, but on average, leopards require between about 1.5 to 5 kilograms of food per day, or meat per day, to be specific, depending on their sex and their size, of course. Now, Mareeb's is a lot smaller than an adult male, and this is to maintain their body mass. So sort of, on average, say, the statistic is that they kill between around about sort of 50 kills in the Kruger area per year. So if you think about that, that's just about one a week, give or take. But I think that's a little too low, because when they make a kill, killing can be anything, of course, from a squirrel or an impala. A kill's a kill. So I think that figure is quite low, but that's a figure that they do give for the Kruger. So they do need they have a requirement in order to ensure that they stay in the surplus of their energy budget and not go into deficit. But that still doesn't mean they need to eat every single day. So although they give a figure of meat that is required each day, of course, if they eat a lot one day, then that could cover them for a long period, a few days, if that makes sense. But as long as they keep their energy budget up and they don't go into deficit, when you go into deficit, that's when you're in trouble. And I mean, there's lots of sort of statistics out there about how much they do eat into their energy budget. And they say that I mean, energetics is the ultimate currency for any organism survival. And male leopards, and I'm talking about adults, not mareebs, for territorial patrol, any activities that involve patrolling to claim their territory accounts for 26%. So let's just say a quarter of their daily intake. And that's just their daily intake, 26%. So that's a quarter gone just on territorial patrol. And for females, so let's just say Tandy, that's parenting a cub that's sort of a year old, give or take, that takes around 10% of their energy budget for that day. So that's a lot. And Mareeb's is about 1 year old, so a lot of Tandy's energy is also going towards him. But it's really based on what they're doing, what an organism is doing. And all the species will have different energy budgets, of course. And this drives their influence to kill. The statistics also state that mother and son traveling together, which is exactly what we saw this morning. We saw Tandy and cub walking along Gowrie Main together. That will sort of... The cub will spend between 12 to 15% more energy than mum traveling together. And that's because he's got to keep up with her. And you saw him this morning. He was weaving in and out of her. He was moving to the side and then he was coming back to mum, and then he was moving to the side and then he was coming back to mum. He was jumping and playing and pulling and nibbling and wrapping his tail around her. And that's going to cost him a lot more energy to walk the same distance along Gowrie Main than it would her. Between 12 to 15% of his daily intake. Now, he's climbed this tree numerous times today. That will also take a lot of his energy. So he needs to replenish that, and that's how it works for any organism, including ourselves. We just tend to, well, eat a lot more than what is required, or at least I do. Energetics is a fascinating topic. It's the ultimate currency for survival. It's really fascinating when you start to dive into an animal's energetic. And when you really want to know more about an animal, I've been teaching you... Oh my goodness, I think I've forgotten my riddle.
Oh, you have.
Naughty, naughty. Okay, I'm going to read it out, and I'll read it all in one for you. I've been giving you riddles. Let's see if you can get this one. What organism am I today? Okay, here we go. The phylum I belong to is famous for their visible spines. And my close relatives are famous stars. I hope you're all working on this as I go. I don't really look like an animal, and I breathe through my anus, but at least I eat through my mouth. I have a really unique defense mechanism to keep me safe from predators. I can actually expel my inner organs when I feel threatened. And this is called evisceration.
Coming down.
I heard that. He's jumped down. Okay, my last clue. I am sometimes mistaken for a vegetable, but salads just love me. What am I? I'm very much looking forward to hearing all your responses today. Okay, I can't see anything, and I am just going to grab my spotlight. I imagine that will be him for the evening. Yeah. Okay, I can see him on the ground, but we are going to let him be now because it's evening. And of course, I don't want to chase him in the dark. So I look forward to hearing your answers. And for now, we're going to send you to Ngala.
Welcome back, everybody. So after following those lines, they kind of headed into a very wet area, so I wasn't able to follow them any further. But as we were kind of leaving, and it's obviously getting quite dark, what we found here is a Verreaux's eagle owl at the top of this dead tree, and it's a beautiful scene with the sun kind of in the background there. This owl just perched at the top of its tree, and look at it turning its head towards us here, and those tufts on top of its head. I mean, okay, so we're going to just quickly switch to infrared, see if we can see it a bit better. It would have just been a silhouette. So now have a look at those tufts on top of its head. Those do look like what they are. Sorry, they do look like ears, but they aren't in fact ears. They're actually just a communication, and it's just a form of what they look like. They often use them to communicate with one another, and just how they look. Their ears are actually on the sides of their head, and their ears are also kind of disproportionate to one another. They're not symmetrical on either side of their head, and they use those ears at different distances or slightly apart to kind of pick up on slight differentiations in sound. I mean, at the top of that perch, this bird very likely would have spent the whole day in the cover of quite a thick, dense tree to try and avoid all sorts of other birds during the day. It's quite a ferocious predator, this bird. It's feeding on all sorts of birds, even up to flamingo sizes, small monkeys, hares. So now it's kind of waking up, starting to look for food. Interesting to see if we hear it call. It's got this beautiful low call. Just kind of scanning from that dead post at the top there. I mean, this is now its domain. You see how it's turning its head? We were chatting about their ears just behind their eyes, kind of being at separate distances apart, being able to pick up on the smallest kind of, one ear will hear something, and that slight fraction earlier or later to the other ear will be able to give it the depth perception to understand exactly how far something is that it's listening to in the grass that it might not be able to necessarily see just yet. It's also a very large owl. Quite a beautiful scene. I mean, at the top of this dead tree, the sun's kind of just set. The moon, as we were talking about, the moon's only going to come up in the next couple of hours. And so Odie's just going to switch back to color quickly. Let's see what it looks like. It'll just be a silhouette in the background there. It really is stunning. This crazy bird of prey at the top of this dead tree. I mean, I wish I could give you kind of perspective as to how big this bird is. It was very obvious driving. The silhouette, as I'm sure you can see very clearly here, stands out incredibly. It's very dark now as well, but it's got these most beautiful eyelids. It's got these pink eyelids if it closes its eyes, these black rings on the side of its face as well, which are the distinguishing features. See how it's constantly turning its head, looking around, listening. Switching back to infrared quickly. It's actually incredibly still this evening. Stopping and listening. How many nocturnal bird species are there around? So there are quite a lot, in fact. So the owls, there's several owls. I mean, you'll get the Verreaux's eagle owl, spotted eagle owl, pill-spotted owlet, barred owlet, Scops owl. Those will be the ones that we see here in the evenings. I mean, the pearl-spotted owlet particularly even operates during the day and hunts during the day. Then you get nightjars. The nightjars that we get here are European nightjar, fiery-necked nightjar, freckled nightjar, Mozambique, or square-tailed nightjar. Then you get bronze-winged coursers as well. There are a few other nocturnal birds that you see around, predominantly the ones in the road, like the fiery-necked nightjars. They're often hanging in the road, and they often get seen in the road simply because they've got a really good view of the sky, which kind of silhouettes the insects that fly by. I mean, they're feeding on the insects in the evening. Lots of nocturnal birds around the water as well. You get some herons and bitterns and things that are moving around in the evening. They're a little bit trickier to see. But yeah, there's a whole array of life that starts to wake up in the evenings, and these are the kind of things that we're really looking for as it gets dark. Those are predominantly the nocturnal birds that we get around here, and this Verreaux's eagle owl is definitely the biggest predator in terms of the birds that we get in the evenings. Even preying on a few of those bigger birds that they might find during the day. I mean, scrub hares as well, they, not a bird, but they come out in the evening. I'm sure we've seen a few of them in the roads as well, almost like a bunny rabbit, but a scrub hare, and that'll be a perfect prey for this owl. It's a really bold predator. I can also hear some crashing in the bushes behind us. Quite far away, I'm sure it's an elephant. I wonder if that isn't what got that owl's attention to turn its head to the right. It's now turned its head back to the left, in fact. Quite amazing to just watch it. And I mean, it's super chilled, in fact. It hasn't even really bothered about us at all. It is, in fact, facing the opposite way as well. Kind of looking towards that sky. Let's see if it can't pick up on anything moving in the grass, maybe a small rodent. It's amazing. This evening, I haven't even heard another bird calling. You often hear those fire-neck nightjars, which are very vocal. I'm going to keep my ears out. Maybe there's some lions that are roaring. I'm right on the eastern boundary as well. Try and see if we can't see some, maybe a different pride that's coming in or pushing one of these prides that are coming in a little bit further west. I'm going to send you over to Andrew while I keep driving and seeing what else we can find this evening.
Beautiful. So we are now driving around with a spotlight. Oh, looks like on the road we got a bird over here. There looks like a bronze wings courser on the road. So this is one of the birds that always come out at night, and they would just gonna see, because we're gonna be using an infrared light. You got infrared light there, man? Or should I use my light? Paul, you right? Yeah. So it sometimes freezes on the road and then doesn't fly off immediately. But it waits for any possible flies fly across the road and catch it and feed on it. And they only come out at night. In the day you find them, they're not really active at all. They will be well hidden in one of the covered area, hide for the darkness to take place until they move around again. Can fly as well. Hey, look at its leg, pretty much like causes a beautiful sound overnight. Let's take a moment of silence just to listen around us. everyone, I agree with you. You all. It's incredible how it moves. Kind of like little dancing a bit. Oops. And they will feed on various small beetles. Stephen, you're asking if this bird only come out at night. Yes, they only come out at night. You do disturb them just sometimes during the day if you move around too much in the bush, but they tend to not to fly immediately. They are one of the birds that is sometimes a live light. So they come out at night, sit around the road, wait for any movement. As you can see now, it's doing its search around for food. When you look at them, you would mistake them to the lapwing, but they are bronze wings corsair, their name. There's also another corsairs which you must see them in the day, called Burchell's corsairs, those ones. KG, so you're asking which animal will prey in this bird? Snake, any type of a night snake, would be in a cobra, would be in a pafada, and then of course owl, would it prey on that? The night owls. A leopard would attempt spend a lot of energy to hunt small birds like this sometimes, if it's possible. Genet, African wild cat, save-alls, those type. So it's quite a lot of enemy for that bird. So I'm going to carry on shining around here. Hopefully I get anything else on this light. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren on her bumble as well.
Sorry, I was just looking at a little insect there. We have left Marib's, and we're just bumbling in the nighttime. Now that I have a spotlight, it's stolen from Michelle. Don't tell him. Don't think he knows, but he will now, I guess. And well done, everybody. James Richard, Gaynor, Joy, William, and Jarrett and FC actually got it right, which means it was not difficult enough. I need to make these riddles far more difficult. But I'm only... It was a sea cucumber. bizarre looking animals. If you've never seen one, please Google it. You will laugh and you will understand why I'm telling you to Google it. They look truly like a cucumber that's come out of the sea. They are in the phylum Echinoderm or Echinodermata. They're related very closely to starfish, sea urchins, and sand dollars. You see that sort of 5 in the spine. I didn't want to say that. I thought that would be too easy. And they do breathe through their bottom. They have a special respiratory tree in their anus. And I know it doesn't sound, well, very pleasant, but it's a very unique, specialized adaptation for the sea cucumbers. And what this means is that they can solely use their mouth to feed. It's a survival strategy, although it sounds rather vulgar. And they pick up algae and all sorts of delicious food for them to eat. So they don't need to even through their mouth. They can always continuously feed in order to survive. But when it comes to their anus, they have to breathe. So it does open and close. And there's actually this wonderful phenomena. Well, it actually may not sound so wonderful, but there are fish called the pearl fish, and they're very, very small, micro little fish. And they have come to realize, I don't really know how to explain the story. We told it many times on Dive Live, but when the sea cucumber opens its anus to breathe, the pearlfish can swim inside. And when they're inside, they live inside the sea cucumber. So essentially, they're parasites, really. They are living in. So essentially, they're parasites, really. They are living inside the sea cucumber for survival. Isn't fish swimming? They're in, and the pearlfish just live there. It's unbelievable. And I remember one scientist actually opened up a sea cucumber, which has a really vascular, it's got a water vascular system, the internal parts, and there was 25 pearlfish living inside one sea cucumber. That's obviously not pleasant for the sea cucumber whatsoever. So yes, they're absolutely fascinating, wonderful animals, and they can completely their inner organs, and this is called evisceration, as I mentioned, and they can throw off the predator, but they are said to often do it regularly as a purge. Well, if it works, those pollutants and of course waste material. So well done everyone. I'm going to continue bumbling along with my spotlight, and we're going to send you across to Deirdre, who's also on a bumble.
Welcome back to Tswalu. We're just trying to see, there's a jackal. Was eating something, but he's just hopped behind the bush. I'm just trying to see which way he goes round. For BK, I think it's going to be better if we go forward. But he was busy snacking on something, but it looked like something relatively small, so possibly a rodent or a small bird. Maybe this next open clearing. Often if there's one jackal, there's more than one. So we can see if we can find... There he is, there to the back. Those taller trees, BK, to the bottom left of the taller trees there. Got him. Oh, he's hopping. Oh, shame. He seems to have a little bit of an injury. And that's him gone. Well, that was a brief glimpse of a black-backed jackal. So that's... Now, as we go into our nocturnal time, the sun has also gone down here. We do expect to find potentially more and more animals like that. So we start looking for spring hare, porcupine, brown hyena, genets, any of those nocturnal animals. But we're just going to be silent for a minute, and you can actually hear the barking geckos. We'll put the ambient mic up, and then you can hear the little geckos. We're going to send you to somebody else that's still on their little bumble.
Welcome back, everybody. So I've kind of left the eastern boundary now. I haven't heard anything. It's been an incredibly still evening, in fact. Not many birds calling. Went past the watering hole, there were lots of frogs that were calling, but very still, not much wind, no lions. It's quite an eerie feeling, actually. Sorry, my spotlight has died as well, so I'm just using the spotlights in front of the vehicle at the moment. They should be sufficient if we spot something particularly in the road. Maybe we'll get lucky and spot a chameleon in the sides of the trees here. So yeah, I mean, I haven't even seen any nightjars this evening. Quite a lot of insects around as well. It's quite surprising. I mean, with the insects around, you often think that the nightjars are going to be there, particularly feeding on them. It's often in this area as well. There's a pair of spotted eagle owls that hang around. They're often standing right in the road, feeding on some insects as well, or just next to the road. So I'm kind of hoping to maybe pop into them. Also at a time in the eastern part of the reserve where we are right now, there's quite a high density of hyenas as well. Particularly with the lion kind of commotions and the dynamics that are going on at the moment. I'm wondering if there's not hyenas that are moving kind of through these areas, just sniffing, smelling lions, trying to see if they can't scavenge on a carcass. Not to say that hyenas aren't incredibly good hunters in this eastern part particularly. There's an open area up ahead here. I wonder if we won't find some impalas and maybe some wildebeest that are there. Kind of... Sorry, let me just fix my mic. You can see it's looking a bit silly. Is that a bit better, Odie? Have I ever seen a hunt at night? The answer to your question is yes. From all sorts of things. From owls taking down small rodents, snakes in the road, also nocturnal. But we were mentioning like those lions earlier that we were with. So during the day they were kind of sleeping and taking their time to kind of rest in the heat of the day. And as it started to cool down and get dark, they got up and moved around. And they are on the hunt when they're doing that. Even if they're like kind of moving from point A to point B, if they come across an opportunity, they will take it. So lions, I've seen them hunting in the evenings. They use the darkness to their advantage. Leopards as well, I've seen them hunting smaller things. Even some birds they might take down in the evenings. Hyenas as well. Your diurnal predators like your wild dogs and cheetah will occasionally hunt in the evening, but they'll very likely do so on a full moon when they've got the advantage of being able to see what's around them. So yes, we have seen lots of hunts in the evening, even from smaller things. If you go to a watering hole, you can see some birds kind of fishing and looking for frogs. Frogs are particularly active in the evenings. Frogs hunting insects as well. Snakes hunting small rodents. So yes, nighttime is full of activity. It's obviously a little bit trickier for us to see what's going on. We do have spotlights and that, but when it comes down to the end of the hunt, if you've got a spotlight, you try and actually take it off. You want to try and be as neutral as you can. You don't want to give any animal any kind of an advantage or disadvantage any animal for that matter. So you'll see particularly the diurnal animals, they've got incredibly sensitive eyes to the light. Oh, there's a scrub hare. I wonder if Odie can get it on the infrared. So I can't see anything right now. I don't know if that scrub hare is still in the road. I do have a small little torch here, let's see. And it is out there in the road. And you'll often see, as I go a little bit further here, this scrub hare sticking to the road. Let me see if I can turn my lights on. So you see it is sticking to the road to kind of almost get away from us. I mean, we're not putting any pressure on this animal or intentionally. But the reason it uses the road, I mean, it's just like people. The path of least resistance is the best path. He's kind of cut off the road now. Taken another game path probably up to the right-hand side. And a scrub hare particularly, I mean, their best form of defense is to use their speed and agility to get away from predators. So the best place to use your strengths is in the road. That allows the scrub hare the best chance to run as fast as it can, change directions very quickly, and they are incredibly quick and agile animals. They're pretty much on the menu for almost everything out here. But there are quite a few of them around. I mean, even a lion who gets the chance to take a scrub hare down, it will. Birds of prey, snakes. What's that? Oh, there's a spotted eagle owl. Or it looked like one at least. Let's see if it's... Remember, I was mentioning they're often spending time in the road. Let's see if it hasn't flown off to a tree on the right-hand side here. I just would guess a spotted eagle owl. Yep, there it is. Fantastic. You got it there, Oz. So I just want to quickly shine my light on it just for 2 seconds to see if I can ID it. I want it to turn its head. Just from the back, it does look like a spotted eagle owl. It's a little bit smaller than the Verreaux's eagle owl as well. Yeah. A little bit smaller, hanging in the road, feeding on some of the insects that are maybe moving around. It also feeds on small rodents and things as well. Termites, we'll see particularly when the alate eruptions are around. This spotted eagle owl will often be hanging around trying to feed on these alates. Incredibly rich in protein. Great little find. There's often a pair of them that hang around here as well. So that's 2 owls for the evening. Hey, we haven't heard any. We haven't heard any, but a Verreaux's eagle owl and a spotted eagle owl. That's a pretty good evening, I'd say. Well, let's see what this owl does. In the meantime, I'll send you somewhere else quickly.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, what are you doing? Are you trying out for the ballet? Now it's an itchy bottom. Up we get. Mom's coming. Everybody's moving off.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Okay, welcome back everybody. So unfortunately our spotted eagle owl seemed to fly away, and because of the darkness we didn't get to see exactly where he went. So we just kept going. The other night there was a big male leopard that kind of crossed the road up here, so I'm having a good slow drive. I mean, I don't have a spotlight, which makes it a little bit tricky. However, I'll be able to see tracks with my lights up ahead, maybe if there is a leopard that's crossing. And it's quite interesting. We actually at the moment don't have a dominant male leopard in this kind of part of the reserve. The one that was here used to be the Tamboti male. He was in fact, he's killed, died. We're not 100% sure exactly how, but yeah, so that's kind of left a void in this area. So just going to try and see. And I mean, he was a very habituated leopard. He was very comfortable around vehicles. But it's a bit of an interesting time because we might get another leopard that's never seen vehicles, particularly if it comes in from the Kruger, which will make our viewing a bit tricky. But it'll be interesting to see if we can start working and habituating these leopards. Particularly, you'll see the females, once they become or come into heat again, they're going to actively start looking and searching for male leopards to mate with, and they'll call constantly, scent mark, and that's what the males will be looking for. They'll be listening out for this as well. And a male's territory will be kind of quite a big area comprised of several females' territories. Sorry, I don't know if I can hear anything. So he'll kind of set up a territory which will encompass several female territories, and the females as well, they are incredibly territorial, in fact. So it'll be very interesting to see which new male leopard will come in and kind of establish. There is that young Makoti male who hangs around here, and he's a bit young, but maybe he's going to have his bum in the butter and end up having a territory from a very young age and seeing if he can take over and start getting some breeding rights, in fact. So it's been quite an interesting afternoon from our side. Some beautiful lions, a couple of members of the Birmingham Pride, this new pride of lions, which I'm very interested to go and try and do some research and find out what they were, which lions they were. I know there were a couple of leopards at Djuma with Lauren this afternoon. Damon had a few rhinos as well, which was fantastic to see. So yeah, it's been a lovely afternoon. My first afternoon back. It's always good to be back in the seat. And yeah, to chat to all of you guys and show you around. Looking really forward to showing you guys around Ngala for the next couple of days as well. It's good to be back for Ngala. We had a couple of days out. Beautiful still evening. I wonder what the conditions are going to be like tomorrow. I reckon, I haven't had a look at the weather forecast just yet, but today was an absolute scorcher. I wonder if we're in for another scorcher tonight. Particularly these nocturnal animals like the lions and the leopards. This is the time in the evening when they're going to be hunting, when the moon is going to be rising in the next couple of hours. So yeah, guys, thanks very much for a lovely afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure to show you around. I look forward to showing you around tomorrow morning and seeing what we can find all together.